Jest, are you
Oh
here? Are you ready
yeah,
to go?
it
We are.
is your favorite podcast's favorite podcast, live from the man cave,
Yes.
and we're ready to do our special project, the Detroit Become Human edition of Ready Player Two, where we play video games together, or one of us, like in this case, plays video games while the other guy backseat drives and drinks and
Yes.
drunkenly harasses him.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just part for the course on what we normally do anyway. This we just have the vehicle of having a video game in front of us while we're doing that. While we're just fucking with each other in general anyway. So yeah, this is pretty much the regular live from the man cave mentality. I like it. Hey.
Let's get started. So first of all, I guess usually we've been offering, long-winded explanations of how we got here. But really, at this point, if you're jumping on to Mission 15, and if you're not watching live, and you just decided to jump in at Mission 15 and
What the
ignore
fuck
the
is
other
wrong with you?
14,
What's wrong with
yeah,
you?
you're a sociopath. All right. The
Yeah.
older episodes
Jesus.
are at youtube.com/liveManCave. If you want to skip the talking stuff, just at least watch the gameplay so you can catch up and get up to where we are now. But
Right.
this is Mission 15, and this one is called The Nest, and it focuses on the main. It looks like it focuses on the main character, Connor.
Yes.
So
It does. It does
before
look
we get
like
into it,
we are back to a single player character, which is cool. We'll see what happens here now.
yes, yes. So without further ado, CraigMakk, tell
Yes,
them
sir.
what you're drinking, and let's get this party started.
All right. Well, I actually, you know what? I would like you to go first. Let's have you go first with what
Okay.
you are drinking, and then we'll kick it over to me so I can back end my way into this one. So what
That's
are you
what
up
she
to?
said.
I get it.
So I went with a. I was in the liquor store looking around for beers that might be befitting these shows, and I found a new beer from or it's probably not a new beer, but it's a beer from a brewer I trust and like a lot
Yeah.
that I hadn't tried before. So I figured let's go with it. And with a name like Solid Gold, why
It
not? This
has to
is
be
a
good.
Founders beer.
Nice.
Solid Gold. It's a premium lager. It looks like their basic model. It's a very this looks like it could be a Coors Light can. That's how simple it is. It's like
Really?
just kind of yeah. It's like a very like a pale yellow, with gold lettering and some black leathering. And I'm looking at it, 4.4% ABV and 20 IBUs. This is memorable quality, legendary taste since 1997. So we like this brewer. I think we both like this brewer. Have you ever had Solid Gold?
I have not. I was actually just looking it up because when you said it really does look like a Miller High Life or something like that. Like
Right.
that's bizarre. It almost looks like a gag can by Founders, because it is so generically like large brewer, the way the can looks, that it
It's real
almost literally looks
basic,
like
right?
they did it as a gag to kind of like say like, hey, look, we can do this too. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that tastes, just because it seems it's so out of the norm for something from Founders, which we've talked about on not only here but also on Live from the Man Cave. That Founders is kind of one of our go-tos in many ways. So that's interesting.
Well, I guess out of the norm in that we would even put Founders in some kind of comparison at all to a Budweiser
Of
or
course.
a Coors or a Miller, right? But
Right.
like, if you think about it, Founders kind of has that 1800s Wild West feel. It's like you always look at their like logos and their cans and stuff like that. It's some old rickety dude with like a long beard, or like some kind of like, in the case of like the I don't know, like some kind of like raspberry or whatever, like old, like it's just like old timey, right? Like it reminds me almost like you could look at every can and it's like it reminds me of something you could find as an icon or a logo, or like a beer can, or if they had cans back then where they were rocking bottles, but like
Yeah.
that might be on a beer bottle in Red Dead Redemption 2. Right,
Right.
that's what it kind of
Right.
reminds me of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of those like Budweiser, Miller, Coors, they kind of, even though like a lot of the people that drink it aren't into that stuff, like they kind of really play on the cowboy thing, right? Like you always
Yeah.
see the Budweiser commercials with the horses and like the cattle and some cowboy, and so
Yep.
I think Founders just right away. I think this one, is that a train on the? I think
It
that, yeah, it's a train.
looks like it
I
is. Yeah.
think so. Yeah,
In the
this goes
picture,
right with their
actually,
kind of theme.
Right. Interesting
But
about that too, just because I was just popping it up just because I wanted to see the can, and I saw their description. It just apparently it's been around for a little bit, but it says specifically in their own description, it says for those of you familiar with the solid gold that we featured in our tap room for years. So it's not something I guess that they've had available canned for a while. It's something that they've been selling in their, in the brewery when you go to their tap room. But they said, but this is not that same beer. Our brewmaster Jeremy completely revamped the recipe, and it now features lager yeast, corn, and lemon drop hops for just the right hint of flavor. Our take on a classic solid gold is a drinkable golden lager brewed with the highest quality ingredients. Challenging what a lager can be, that's something we won't regret. Well, that's interesting.
The lemon dropper sounds really interesting to it. So
It does,
I'm gonna
yeah.
crack open the can, and so right away, the smell it just tastes like, it smells like a regular lager beer, like an American regular lager beer. Like I will not say Budweiser, because now we know, especially after drinking their attempt at a real, at a quote unquote craft type beer.
Right.
Budweiser's a horrible beer, but maybe the smell. It smells like you cracked open a Miller or a Coors Light, where it's water heavy.
Okay.
But you can smell the hops of the beer coming through. So now let me
Does that
see
mean
if it tastes better.
Yinglings or anything like that? Like a little bit more? Or no?
I'm not a big fan of Yingling.
Right. Neither am I.
It's not horrible. I'm not a big
Okay.
fan of it, but it's not bad. If you force me to drink it, I'm stuck with Yinglings. I won't react like I did when
Absolutely.
we were doing our holiday
Absolutely.
show, and
Absolutely.
every bit of that Budweiser Reserve was absolutely
That was
awful.
horrendous. Well, I was more just saying that at least that is a little bit more of a it's a little bit more
than
substantial than a Bud Light or a Coors Light or something like that in terms of flavor. Whether or not you like it, I was just wondering if it was, I was asking if
No,
that,
so I was saying, so smell wise, it gave out. When you crack a Miller or a Coors,
right,
and you could it cracks. You could smell the hops, but the water is heavy in the smell. Right. And because this 4.4 ABV, it really does. It's that. All right. So your usual American beer that most Americans are used to before they discover craft beer and go, fuck that, I'm going 9.9% ABV all the time, is somewhere sitting around 4.5 to 5% ABV. Right.
4.5
so
to
this
5.5 is your average. Yep.
Right, and so this is ever so slightly below the average of 4.4 at 4.4. Yep. This is a session type beer. And I guess the best way, because now I've tasted it, the best way I could describe this is if you were going for what Miller and Coors and Budweiser are going for, which is a low alcohol content beer that gives you enough beer but you could keep drinking it and it's kind of refreshing, and this would be the way to do it. This is probably what those companies, if they could have achieved had they been good.
Okay. So it does taste good though.
It's yes, but it's a 4.4%, definitely a 4.4% beer.
Right.
It's just I could taste heavy water, and the best part of it is on the back end, that lemon drop.
Yep.
It hits you, not overpowering, just like a kiss of it, and you're like, and it makes you want to take another sip. And then when you take the other sip, the lemon drop's not there immediately, and you're back to kind of watery beer.
Right.
But it's good. It's good. It's well done. So I don't. This is actually good. It's not if you wave one of these in front of me, I'm not gonna. Oh, I love that. That's my shit. You know what I mean? But this is good for what it is. This is a good take on this type of beer.
And the reason why I was asking too is because remember, and we've had it on the show specifically. I know friend of the show, Jim. Jim Sardonic has talked about it himself. But
he said this. He said solid gold?
No. I was going to say that Founders has made a name for themselves, making their all day IPA, which is their incredibly low ABV sessionable IPA. Which for a lot of people is one of their one of many people's favorite IPAs. I mean, in terms of because the quality of the taste on that one, and that one it's 4.7%, so it's not that much higher than what you're drinking, but they're able to pack some real quality punch in terms of the flavor, right? So Founders doesn't shy away from that whole idea of saying, hey, like flavor does not associate with ABV and vice versa, right? Because we've all had plenty of super high alcohol content beers that taste like shit, and we've also had lower alcohol content beers that taste great. And so it's like they don't necessarily marry to one another. It's just that we're kind of living now in this world where every brewery is in a race to get to the get into the double digits and above of ABV. So because Founders has already kind of carved that out and saying that they're cool with doing that. It's just interesting to see that, hey, they have their all-day IPA. Now they try their, now they do the solid gold, which is their version of that in a lager, and it's good to see that they can, actually make that taste good as well as a nice alternative to drinking like a Yingling or, some of these other lagers that maybe, don't have the same degree of quality and taste that, that I would like. So that's cool.
I gotta say that this serendipitously is hitting the spot right now, because even like the more I drink it, because I was drinking beer like earlier today, and then I wound down and I was like kind of trying to flush my system out, drinking a lot of water and stuff like that, and I was like pretty happy drinking the water, and then you hit me up like, yo, let's do this Ready Player 2, and I kind of didn't feel like going back to beer, but when I grabbed this, I was like, this is the happy medium. This is like, this is not heavy on the stomach. It's not like, it's just something I don't know. It's like refreshing while drinking a beer at the same time. Which, again, this is just a very well done version of what these mainstream American beer companies have been trying to do for years.
That's cool. That's awesome. Nice, man.
So what you got?
That's a winner. So my side of the things of the beer of the show, I guess for this one is going to be a little bit different. Because we've talked about I've done some taken some chances. I've gone with some old faithfuls. I've taken some some different kind of routes as we've done the specifically on the Ready Player 2 side of things. And today I'm going a little bit completely different from all of that, and this will be even probably more of a surprise, if nothing else, to my buddy and co-host Jest as well. But as many people have done, you've heard a lot about this happening. It's with the new year and everything like that. We're into this currently as of recording. We are getting close, about a little bit past midway through February. And we have decided in the man cave that we are doing, holy shit, wait for it, a dry fucking month, dude. A dry month. I know, can you believe it? A fucking dry month, man. So
when you say we, you mean you're being forced by your wife to do a dry month?
No.
Because I'm not doing a dry month.
So, fuck that, honey. No, fuck that, honey. No, exactly. No, but basically, I think this was a post-holiday, just living in that, I guess you can say post-holiday is really everything from Halloween on until through the end of January, when you start realizing that every week in January you're still having, like belated holiday parties because you're like, hey, we didn't get to see each other during the holidays, so let's have like a little holiday party where we get together and eat like Christmas cookies and eat like pig still and drink like it's still the holidays. And I was like, this is just fucking insane. Like
we did our holiday episode like deep into January.
Exactly. So and I don't know if you remember this, quite a bit of drinking also took place during that episode.
Yeah. I remember. Well, no, I don't remember.
You don't remember. You're learning about it in retrospect by listening to the podcast, like everyone else at home. That's why our show is so great, because you get to experience the show once while it's happening, and then again when you listen back to it. It's amazing.
Like completely black out, don't remember any of it, and then wake up. And like, I really said that?
Hey, these guys are fucking hilarious.
Yeah, who are these guys? That's you, asshole. I didn't say that. I don't remember that.
Oh, these guys are fools, but I like them. Wait, what? But so after all that being said, I really was just like, man, I just feel like a little bit of, reining it in wouldn't be such a terrible thing. And if this show has fucking proven anything, is that reining it in's maybe not like my forte. So I decided the best way to do it is just say, why not just fucking completely cleanse and shut it down and just have like a fucking one healthy month out of 12. Let's see how that goes for CraigMakk.
I hate you. This sounds like a punishment. What did you get? Did you get caught doing something outrageous? You took a shit in your living room and your wife said you're not allowed to drink for another month.
No, so
That's
here's
what
the
really
thing.
happened.
Here's the funny thing about this is that
this is a drug deal that happened. You had to do this thing.
Right. This could be a whole separate podcast that we could do just talking about this, but all things like just to kind of dumb it down so people don't have to hear too much about like the ins and outs of what's going on about all this. It is surprisingly not a punishment at all. Like you go into it thinking, oh my god, this is going to be miserable, right? Like I'm going to be by fucking like, Wednesday, I'm going to be like, holy fuck, how many more days? And then like I just kind of powered through but like within a couple days, it was like it wasn't even a big deal at all. Like it wasn't one of those things where like, oh, I can't hang out with people, because like, or go out to like a restaurant because like when we go out, I'm always going to want to get like a beer or something like that. Like it was just like, hey, whatever. It's like not that big a deal. Not to say that doesn't mean that guaranteed on fucking March 1st I'm gonna be like face to the fucking to the man cave tap and just sucking it down and making all bad decisions for the one good month that I made a good decision. But it has actually been an interesting little I don't want to say experiment or anything like that, but yeah, so it's been okay. So all that being said,
your feel goods on it. Are you about to introduce Craig's cocaine in the show? The first
cocaine in the show. It is literally
this one is pure cut Colombian. from my dealer Benito. I highly recommend this guy.
Right.
He does not cut his shit down. He does
Exactly.
not fucking stuff his shit with like bleach.
Right. No, exactly. It's just homemade meth of the show. No, but So with this one, I am literally just having. All it is we have a soda stream, so I just literally made a thing of water and blasted it and carbonated it. So I have a bottle of carbonated water that I'll be drinking during this.
You're the worst kind of person.
I know.
The worst kind of person.
Hey, I'm not trying to pump it down your throat.
Trying to make it look like something cool. Yeah,
here,
so I soda
do you want to open it up? Here, you ready? Listen.
You're the worst.
Here you go. Listen. Oh, you hear that? Carbonated water opening up. And dude, right on,
flavor?
Like, immediately you notice
what flavor is that? Depression?
It smells right. It smells like sadness and oh man, it's just like
reminiscing. It smells like reminiscing the good times.
Right, exactly.
it smells like Home Depot and maybe a little bit of Bed Bath and Beyond tomorrow.
Right. It smells like your sad uncle who had to give up drinking like 25 years ago for a reason that he never really fully told you why.
But still always wants to smell a little bit of yours. Mm-hmm. Just go ahead and crack that open around. I don't. I have no impetus to drink that. I just wanted to, reminisce.
Right. It smells like your judgy asshole friend who makes fun of you for drinking while he sips on his carbonated water. Yeah, no, it definitely has a little bit of that. A little bit of that too. Right. Who just says like, no, I understand. No, it's each his own. You're like, you fucking asshole. I know what that means. I know what the fuck that means. That doesn't mean to each his own. It means I made the right choice and you're making a horrible life decision. You fucking prick.
It's like me when I say I don't eat meat anymore, and but you go right ahead. I mean,
right.
I don't want to murder animals, but I wanted to improve myself.
Right, I wanted to let my daughter. I wanted to let my daughter make decisions for herself before I fucking forced murdered animals down her throat. But like, you do whatever you want to your kids. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't judge you at all. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, no problem. You go do what you have to do.
So you're going to be sober through this whole thing, and then I'm going to be pounding these 4.4% ABV solid golds and also be sober. So
let's be honest. I was going to say, you're not really drinking that much more than me, okay? So you're fucking
like a little bit extra past your soda streamer.
Exactly. The only difference between you and me is if I suddenly got sick and needed to take like cough medicine, then we'd roughly be about the same degree of drunk by the end of this episode. Right. So let's not act like you're doing your fucking 19% like you've done before. All right. So I feel way better about this one.
I'm trying to see if we can get, being a lawyer, I wanna find you a loophole, and I'm thinking, maybe if you were sick, right, cough medicine wouldn't be off the table, right?
It is not
That's
off
not
the table.
technically.
No, no.
So I mean, you could technically make yourself a little lean, and you put that
Right.
little cough medicine in the soda, and
Right. I do like how you're asking questions as if I am now like an actual alcoholic, and you're like, so let me get this straight. If you get sick, you're allowed to chug cough medicine, right, CraigMakk? And I'm like,
these are like
yeah,
the
no,
conditions
it's
of your
not.
probation questions.
Right,
Like,
right. This is not like a rule that was instituted so that I'm allowed to maintain possession of my daughter. This is just a choice I made. There wasn't a judge that came and said, "Okay, so here's the deal: no more painkillers for you, CraigMakk." And I'm like, "But if my teeth get pulled, like I'm doing right now with these pliers, can I take painkillers then?" It's not that. Just relax. This is my own decision. I can do what I want.
I think at this point we've given it. God damn it! So now I got to put. Wait, I have to actually type this in the chat. So CraigMakk's, what do we call this? Soda of the show.
Soda stream of the show. Yeah.
Gross.
Yep.
CraigMakk's soda of the show.
Soda of the show.
And what's the flavor? Wait, what is the brand of Soda Streamer that you're using?
It is literally just regular Soda Stream, like the traditional Soda Stream company. The name of the company is Soda Stream. Yep.
Soda Stream, and then what is the flavor?
It is fucking plain ass water with carbonation in it. There's not even a flavor. It's just plain ass water.
With plain ass water. Soda Stream, plain ass water. All right, there you go.
I like it.
This is a sad day.
Cool. I do that. By the way, first of all, you know what? Seeing it written up there, this is a sad day. I feel worse now. I feel way worse about my decision when you see it written on the screen like that. I also really appreciate at least that you didn't capitalize plain ass and water, so people don't think, oh shit, I gotta look for that. That looks pretty good. Where's this?
Honestly,
where's
you told
this
me about
Soda Stream plain ass water shit? I mean, he drank mop water one show, so maybe plain ass water is this other awesome craft beer I don't know about.
That sounds great. If a brewer I trusted put out a beer called plain ass water,
I would drink the fuck out of that. I would drink the shit out of that, and I would be like, man, this would be awesome because I can go out to bars and be like, yo, let me get some of that plain ass water, and I would feel fucking awesome about it, knowing that they're gonna come back with a beer. Instead, nope, I actually just have shitty plain ass water. All right, cool. That's where we're at.
All right.
We said we were going to jump right into it, and we're still 22 minutes in because of Craig's raging alcoholism.
I guess at this point, if you've tuned in and you're watching live, go ahead and let us know in the chat. That's fine. Most of our viewers we found come in after the fact and watch us on YouTube. But if you are live, then we'll give you shout outs. You can participate. It'll be more me looking at the chat. So, but let's proceed. Let's get this party started and.
All right,
see what happens.
Ready to go. Let's see. We are jumping out of going to the actual to Jericho and now making our way back to Connor. So we'll see what's happening here.
Yep.
I don't like how she was, speaking of being judgmental, when I turned this on, that the robot lady was being all shitty and judgmental, like, ooh, welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm like, shut the fuck up. I know.
Monitoring my.
I know. It's because I haven't been drinking, and now you're looking at me like that, you bitch.
I really was wondering why you did. You haven't been. So we haven't been doing this thing in like over a week. And I'm like, now I know the answer.
It's all been like, oh, I fell asleep. You're like, you just went to sleep early because you couldn't drink, right? I'm like, no, I actually fell asleep. You're right. It's because I couldn't drink. That's it.
It all makes sense now.
Reconcile with Lieutenant Anderson. Oh, okay. So now Hank's pissed, and I have to go reconcile with him. Got the chicken. Was that just say chicken food? That's great.
Number 5 in the third.
Chicken. Oh,
chicken
and food. Yeah. It's
chicken feed. Chicken feed. Okay.
Oh, chicken feed.
I like the reflection on the. That's cool. I'm gonna back up just so you can see. See how cool the graphics look of the reflection in the water of where it says chicken feed.
That's really dope.
Fucking cool looking. Like in the water trickling on it.
Detail.
Yeah, and like it like fades out when you walk to areas where there's no water. That's cool as shit.
Damn straight.
Oh, did he just buy drugs?
Won't regret this.
All right, I'm down with this. I think the cop just bought some drugs. Oh, Connor's going to talk. I can't wait.
Won't you ever do as you're told? Look, you don't have to follow me around like a poodle.
Oh, wow, he's mad at me. Oh, shit.
told you not to jump that fence.
I'm sorry for my behavior back at the police station.
Oh, that's right. He's pissed because I asked him all the questions about his
You've even got a brown nose and apology.
not coming back. Oh, Hank's warming up to me again.
CyberLife thought everything, huh?
That's a pretty funny answer.
There you go.
Yes.
Hamburger. Oh wow, 1680 calories. Lipids 36 grams. Carbohydrates 53 grams.
That's a lot of fucking calories for a
53,
burger.
it is.
Jesus.
Salts 2.2 grams. Wow. Considering that thing is 53% water, holy fuck, that's a lot of calories. Oh shit.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Gary. I'm starving.
Love that they give me the option of scanning his
I'll leave
food
that
so I can
thing
talk
here.
shit about him.
Not a chance. Follows me everywhere.
You know, if you continue to drink that or eat that food, you're gonna have colon cancer.
All right.
Hey,
He says, see, he follows me around. That's pretty funny. Don't judge him. Don't, oh, God. Cholesterol, gambling. Enjoy your meal.
Enjoy your meal.
All that shit I could have said to him.
You didn't pay for your meal.
Oh, God damn it.
here's your friend.
The thank you was awesome.
Scratch his back.
Thank
scratch his
you,
back.
asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to know about me?
Hell no.
Fuck no.
Well, yeah. Why do they make you look so goofy and give you that?
Oh, I
weird
love it.
voice?
CyberLife androids are designed to work harmoniously.
I love
with
it. They
humans.
finally
Both my
recognize his
appearance
voice.
and voice were specifically designed to facilitate my integration.
Well, they fucked up.
Well, they fucked up. That's amazing. Oh, it's amazing.
Maybe I should tell you what we know about deviants.
I love this
Right on my
actor,
mind.
dude. He's fucking great.
Yeah.
Proceed.
His
Heather plays
fucking
Hank.
short
Mutation occurs in the
one-liners are so
software of
good.
Some androids, which can lead to them emulating.
He's always kind of been
human
good at being an
emotions.
asshole.
Yes, I love it. I
They
mean, his
don't really
voice just sounds
feel emotions.
perfect for that.
They just get overwhelmed
Yeah.
by irrational instructions,
Ooh, this is
which can
interesting.
lead to unpredictable behavior.
Okay. So deviants are not actually feeling; they're just
Emotions always screw everything up. The
Just
androids are as
emulating
different from
emotions.
us as we thought.
or that's at least that's what they believe about it. Oh, whatever it is, I didn't
Can
unlock
I ask
that
you a
other
personal
option.
question, Lieutenant? Why do you hate androids so much?
You fucking
I have
asshole!
my reasons.
I knew he was.
You ever dealt with deviants before?
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, nice. That's the first
A
episode.
few months back, a deviant was threatening to jump off the roof. with a
Oh, it's
little
been
girl.
months ago. I didn't realize it was that long.
I managed to save her.
So I guess you've done all your homework, right? Know everything there is to know about me.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah.
I know
can
you
tell the truth.
graduated top of your class. You made a name for yourself in several cases and became the youngest lieutenant in Detroit. I also know you've received several disciplinary warnings in recent years, and you spend a lot of time in bars.
So what's your conclusion?
I think working with an officer with personal issues is an added challenge. But adapting to human unpredictability is one of my features.
Nice. Uh-oh.
I just got a
look it up.
report of a suspected deviant. It's a few blocks away. We should go have a look.
Love, he just got
I'll
radioed
let you
in.
finish your meal.
Yeah.
I'll be in the car if you need me.
Oh man, they're like hitting it off. Well, they fucked up. It's still the best line of this episode so far. They designed my look and my voice to facilitate relationships with humans.
You ran out of batteries or what?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they fucked up
I was
because you're
making a
goofy and
report
it's
to
pissing me
CyberLife.
off.
Oh wow, he just made a report by
Well, do you
just
plan
shuts
on
his eyes.
staying in the elevator?
No. I'm coming.
So weird. He's so weird. I love it. No, I'm
What do we
coming.
know about this guy?
Not much. Just that a neighbor
Hank's like,
reported that he heard strange
fucking
noises coming
weirdo.
from this floor. Nobody's supposed to be living here, but the neighbor said he saw a man hiding
Oh. Rock pigeon comprised
an
of different
LED under
specimens.
his cap.
Oh, Christ, if we have to investigate every time somebody hears a strange noise,
need more
we're gonna need more cops.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey, were you really making a report back there in the elevator? Just by closing your eyes?
Correct.
Oh, I like that he thinks I'm cool, though.
Shit. Wish I could do that.
I'm checking to see if there's any other bullshit in this hallway. Does not look like there is. Alright. That's cool. He's like actually jealous of his ability to transmit reports back immediately.
Huh.
Fucking Hank is so good.
Anybody home?
It's Clancy Brown.
Yep, Clancy Brown's amazing.
Open up, Detroit
Famous
police!
from The Shawshank Redemption, Starship Troopers, Thor Ragnarok,
Stay behind me.
Warcraft, the beginning.
Oh shit! All right, here we go. Yeah, you just kick that fucking door open. I don't get a gun. Come on. Come on.
He's got an upgraded karate program,
Red ice.
complete with a
epidemic.
crane kick.
The
I
latest
feel like this dude
narcotic
is definitely
crisis
doing a
to ravage
crane
New
kick.
York. And
Red
then
ice.
Red ice, and then green earth. Past the tipping point. Red ice, green earth. Oh, it's Christmas colored. Earth's environment officially beyond repair. Oh, okay. Wow, that's okay. So they went that route where the global warming has fucked the country.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was right.
Yep, it's happening. Alright. As she always says, the global warming and Android problem are going to ruin.
Exactly.
Oh,
That's her major platforms.
that's disgusting.
Jesus, this place.
Confirmed
Fuck,
suspect
this
is
guy
being
needs a fucking maid.
find cause of loud noise. That's really gross.
Stinks.
Jesus, that's gross.
Well, looks like we came for nothing. Our man's gone.
Yeah, go ahead and put some of that pigeon shit in your mouth to
Suspect
analyze
cares
it.
for wild animals. Old barn. Yeah, that was so gross. You know you don't have to do that. I love when they were like, you don't have to fucking do that, you weirdo. Yes, I know. I just prefer it that way.
Send it to the lab.
Military jacket, second
Oh, it's
hand.
okay.
RT.
Initials RT.
Probably initials.
Alright, what's over there?
He put his
I
initials in his
particularly
jacket.
enjoy when I have to test for
Something your mom
semen,
does when you're in first grade.
especially when the suspect has eaten a lot of pineapple.
Rupert Travis, authentic.
The driver's
forgery.
license is fake.
Cool. At least we didn't come for nothing.
I don't want to go there yet.
I need some fresh air.
Urban Farms of Detroit. Fields in the heart of the city. 265 Acre Avenue, Detroit. Urban Farms poster. And then... No, that's the thing I just did. There's one other thing here. What? Oh, there we go. 100% recycled paper recently moved. Alright. Let's take that off the wall and see what's going on. Take that out. He did a shitty job covering that thing up. What a terrible criminal he is. Let's browse through this. This looks like a crazy person wrote it. He is a serial
Found something?
It looks
I
like the
don't know.
fucking maze in
It
Westworld.
looks like a note.
Yeah, it really did. You're right.
Indecipherable.
Maybe this is Arnold's apartment.
Yeah. As he's fucking going
Or Bernard.
deviant. Yeah, Bernard. Going deviant. Did I look at that already? That's... Uh-oh. Suspect doesn't eat, or maybe he eats so much that everything's gone.
Jesus, I hate these things.
Yeah. Why, that
Birds
doesn't
are
look like anything
weird.
at all.
Yeah. The birds are really like cool with just hanging out. Oh, he's gonna eat it again. Gross! Blue blood reported missing 10/11. Oh, he keeps passing. Oh, he ripped the thing
New
out.
books.
It's, This android jizzed in the sink.
Yeah.
Its LED is in the sink.
Not surprised it was an android. No human could live with all these fucking pigeons.
Oh, also that. Alright, this RA9 shit again. Clancy!
Any idea what it means?
RA9. Written 2,471
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
times. It's the same sign Ortiz's android wrote on the shower wall. Why are they obsessed with this sign?
RA9 is weird.
Looks like mazes or something.
Also crazy, what's his name was carving on the wall, right? The fucking
Yeah.
face
Fuck.
dude.
What's his name again?
obsessive compulsive.
Yeah.
Right?
Ralph.
Ralph, yeah. Eat.
Eat. Humans like rats.
We'll eat like a family with Ralph. Yeah! He was so fucking silhouette. Used recently. Color Midnight Mood black. Open marker pen. Okay. And then scan that motherfucking chair. Wooden stool. Recently disturbed. Traces of avian fecal matter. Gross. Gross. Fecal matter. Alright, so let's see. He was
When you
standing
test
on
the
there to
fecal
right.
matter.
Suspect was here recently, yeah, just for funsies though. Just 'cause I want to. Go! Oh. Suspect ran to the living room. I love these fucking like Batman-y little what's it called things? Wait, I can't. Use the right stick to move the camera. Oh, okay, I see. I couldn't figure out what they were saying to do here. What am I? Wait, what?
Looks like you already analyzed both of the clues.
Yeah, but it's saying use the right stick to move the camera. But I don't know. Oh, I don't know what. Okay, maybe they were just saying, just in case there was something else. Alright, so can I scan back out
Birdseed.
there?
I can't believe
Suspect is deviant. Find the cause of the loud noise.
this nutjob was actually feeding these fuckers.
He just fucking hates. He hates his job so much. These fucking assholes. Skid mark recent. Traces of galvanized steel. Alright. Oh, there's fingerprints. Gotcha, sucker. Oh, no fingerprints. Fuck! Fick!
I mean, I'm not sure the deviants have fingerprints or
Right, yeah,
androids.
yeah, you're right, yeah. Recently broken 100% stainless steel.
Maybe they do. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's a he had gloves or something. Or, I don't know. I don't think they've established one way or the other. Oh, suspect ran towards entrance. Suspect heard us enter. Oh wow. Oh, he just ran the fuck out. So he was about to run out and then heard us come in and he ran over here. Oh shit, suspect is still here. Oh fuck.
You're gonna narc on this guy too? They love to go for the fucking addicts.
They really do. I'm just checking if there's anything over here I can do before. He's not gonna, I love how he's not gonna tell fucking Hank, like, hey, by the way, the motherfucker's right up there.
Oh, because the other guy can hear him.
Goddamn fucking pigeons! What are you waiting for? Chase it!
Fucking Hank.
Really? Fucking pigeons. He's not worried at all about the fucking the deviant. It's like, these fucking pigeons.
So,
Alright, this is cool. Definitely want to
love these chase scenes.
These are cool as fuck. I love that you get to like choose your different pathways and
Yeah.
shit.
That motherfucker's straight parkour.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Both of them.
Oh, damn. No! Oh, shit. No.
Nice.
Going for it. Oh, no! Fuck you! Get him, get him, get him, get him, get him! I
I wonder if you would have got him if you would have made that.
Oh, that sucked. I hit it and it's... Oh, well.
You were real close a couple times there.
Come on! Sometimes you just have to hit it, other times you have to pound it. They don't really explain that well. What? Wait, where the fuck did he go? I didn't even see where he went. No, I
That was
fucked
to your
up.
right. I'm not sure.
I fucked that up.
I'm not sure. Oh.
I fucked it up then. I didn't see him. I thought he was...
Where'd it go?
Fuck!
I lost it.
Ah, fuck me.
Shit, fuck, we had it.
Oh, man.
Sorry, doesn't matter. We know what it looks like. It won't get far. Come on, let's get out of here. Seen enough vegetables for one day.
That shouldn't have happened. I wasn't programmed to fail.
Oh, shit.
Oh, well, you fucked up, Connor. Welcome to the club.
I wasn't programmed to fail.
That was actually cool. He was, like, surprisingly cool about it. Like, normally, like, a couple missions ago, he would have been like, fuck you! How'd you let him go get away? And this time he's like, whatever, it's not your fault. Like, it happens, you know?
Right.
Which, that was pretty awesome. Alright, well, we played through the nest.
Alright, so
Now
your
we do-
completion percentage was what on that?
58%.
I'm at 61. Alright, let's see what
61, okay.
what we did differently. I thought you did some things in there I didn't remember doing,
Okay.
so this should be interesting.
So, I don't know what the fuck... Oh, what? Weird. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Weird. Okay, that was weird.
What
It
happened?
popped up an error on my screen all of a sudden, and it was like, oh, yeah,
Oh.
we're not. Gameplay is not being broadcast. Okay, so is Amanda the lady that works at the
Yes.
for
She's
Cyber
that lady
Life,
that's
the computer?
right that he
Yeah.
reports to.
Yeah,
That
okay.
he's in the he
Okay,
goes to
because it
that
says,
little
yeah,
book.
public opinion skeptical, software instability, question mark still. Hank is now back to warm, and Amanda's trusted. But it shows that she's pointing down, so I don't know what that means. But oh, no, they're just showing arrows up and down for everything. All right, cool. All right, so I'm just going to pop up the world stats as we go right through this, right, to tear right into it.
Yep.
All right, so starts off with the lunch break. I joined Hank, and then from there seemed to be something, a
I
couple
didn't get
things
the
I could've
unlock
done.
under that too.
Okay.
Probably had to do with if you had brought up some of those other touchy
Right,
subject
the
options
things that I
you
did
had.
not want to. Right, yeah.
Right.
So
I
then it
also
goes
did
to-
not unlock the thing above. Talk to Hank. I did
Okay.
talk to Hank like you did.
Yep,
94% of us talked to him.
All right, and so
Um,
it looks
be
like if you
frank.
didn't say anything.
Be
Oh,
frank with Hank.
I guess the above one is probably if you just stood next to him and you were quiet, because it looks like that bypasses talking to Hank and then proceeds on to whatever
Or to the
branches off.
elevator.
Yeah, so you could have you could have just not said anything and just stood there awkwardly like a weirdo. But but so then,
76% of us were frank with Hank.
yes, and so so you did that as well?
Yeah. I
Okay.
also, I don't know. I ended up warning Hank about his friends. I don't even remember what I did, how I warned him, but me and 41% of people also did that.
Okay,
So that's
'cause that
the
guy who was
So underneath "Be frank with Hank," there's the lock, and that stayed locked. But then the lock underneath it is the warn Hank about his friends. Lock.
Okay. So I guess that was that weird guy when I was just like, I could have said something to him about that guy and I chose not to. I was just like,
Oh,
hey,
right.
how come you got a free lunch or whatever? And he's just like, yeah, we're friends.
That's probably it. Yeah, that guy is a seedy dude, and
Right.
if you're looking the other way to receive favors from him, then that's not right. I probably said
Right.
something like that.
Right. So
point,
so
yeah.
I
He
didn't
probably
say
told me to
anything.
go
I
fuck
left
myself.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you probably hit the yeah. Either way, that doesn't go anywhere
Right.
with me. It doesn't lead to anything. So
Right. He probably
I
told you to
probably
fuck
just
off.
succeeded in
Yeah.
in pissing him off.
Right. All right. So then
So
went
we
into
moved
the
to next to
elevator.
the elevator.
Yep. So 84% of people examined the feathers. Did you do that?
I did, yes.
Okay. Yep. Then we go into the nest. All right. So now this is where it goes. See the RA9 reference. So 99% of people had to see that. I mean, I don't know who the fuck didn't see that.
The RA9 reference, where is that?
All over the walls.
Up there. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. 99%.
Literally,
Right.
you had to like be like, I don't want to play this game anymore if you didn't click on that because it's fucking right in front of your face.
Yeah, the person's like, man, fuck that. I ain't clicking on that shit.
Right, right. Find the LED is 98% of people, and then find the diamond.
I did as well.
I assume you did that as well.
Yes,
Yep,
that's correct.
Yep, okay. And then so off of the RA9 reference was basically, okay, so almost everyone, or everyone who did the RA9 reference investigated the stool.
Yeah. All
and
four
then,
of those.
Right, and then off of the investigative compartment, so you had to see the RA9 reference to be able to investigate the stool. So that's why I guess some people didn't do something, because that 1% of people that didn't look at the RA9 reference didn't see the stool at all. But investigate the cage is 98% of people, and then you read the books as well.
Yeah, and I'll actually float out to them to see if they're worth.
Yeah.
So let's see here. We're going to magazines, and one of them is Red Ice Epidemic, and the other one is Past the Tipping Point, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, I look for those. You can, you want to go ahead and keep going through the.
I was going to say too, because there is one other thing that you could find when you're investigating the apartment that I did not do that leads to another thing that I also didn't do. But it looks like that could have been an end, because the way it's like written is one of those huge locks.
Yeah, I didn't.
So
I
don't
didn't
know.
get that either.
Maybe you could have found him right away and caught him. I don't know. Like maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe he wouldn't have ever ran away. It's possible that you could have gotten that. But so then,
or it could be you don't find him at all, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it probably could be that you don't find him at all, and that just ends.
All right, I found Past the Tipping Point. If you want to cover that real quickly.
Yeah.
So Past the Tipping Point is the Green Earth thing. Green Earth, Past the Tipping Point, unprecedented hurricanes all across the Midwest. Earth's environment officially beyond repair. And so now remember, this game is 20 years in the future. 20 or 30? Which
30,
one? I think it's 20. Yeah, 20. There's 2038.
Okay. Okay, 2038.
2038. Yeah. Okay. So now for us, it's going to be 19 years in the future.
Right. Ooh,
environmentalists have long warned us about. Yeah. So the article basically says environmentalists have long warned us about a tipping point, the moment at which global warming reaches a level that is irreversible. Scientists are now saying we have officially passed it. Global rainforests have been reduced by 79% since 2000, and coastal corals by 58%. Polar ice has melted to such an extent that rising sea levels have many states struggling to keep the water out of their coastal towns. With these cooling factors so diminished, there is now too much carbon in the atmosphere for the environment to ever absorb. Jason Reese, head of the Global Environment Agency, said this study confirms what many of us have suspected for a long time, but the real calamity is the linked decline of natural resources, from energies to minerals, which are almost exhausted and can never be replaced. Many environmentalists have criticized Reese's comments as discouraging people from taking action, but Reese has defied these criticisms. It's important people accept the reality of the situation. The planet will keep getting hotter now. The only question is how fast. So this obviously is kind of like a storytelling worst case scenario extension of what our current politicians are warning about. Well, our current slew of new politicians like Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar, they've been warning us about that we are farther along in this environmental crisis in this nation than we think we are, or the world, right? Than what's being led on. And remember that what scares me is that these people. This is what I love about this new group of Democratic freshmen. And again, I'm not even a Democrat, but I love this group of Democratic freshmen like Ilhan Omar, Ocasio-Cortez, Talib, and then now some of the veterans that before were playing the game because they thought you can't come in here and do what they're doing and be successful. They'll run you out of Washington really quickly. And this group managed to come in and kind of represent these concerns that a lot of us are having, that the establishment politicians are always telling us, well, you can only do so much within these,
Right.
and they're demanding answers. But what they've been crying out has been like, you guys ain't taking this shit seriously. You
Right.
think this is a problem your grandkids are going to have to deal with, and we're here to tell you that this shit
It
could
does,
happen while
yeah.
you're still alive.
Right.
So this is scary for me to just, and again, these aren't real statistics. This is a fictional account of how bad it has gotten. But the logic holds that if we are going this way and shit is dire now, in 20 years, we really could be past the tipping point.
Right. And
I like that.
It's interesting. It's interesting to take, and I mean, obviously all of this game is very prescient in terms of what's happening now, but to try to take that and add some statistics to it, right? Whether or not, like you said, they're real or not doesn't really matter, but it's more the idea of the shock value of there's going to be that day, right? There's going to be that day where you realize, oh wait, we don't have any more time. Like before we had time, we could have, we could have reduced emissions and we could have cut back on, burning through fossil fuels and stuff like that. We could have tried to, lower the overall global temperature, all those things that I think we've talked about on the show, but those things that said that change in that 1 to 2 degrees in terms of what the impact would be, to the globe in general, but specifically to like the United States and to the outlying, like the states that are on the, on the waterfront and so forth, and saying like, what happens if everything goes up like 1 degree? What happens if everything goes up 1.5 degrees? And what if everything goes up 1.8 degrees? And it's like 1.8 degrees becomes like critical mass, right? And we think 1.8 degrees is like nothing. But you look at these numbers where you're like, oh, that's when like you have entire rainforests wiped out. That's when you have the glaciers melting, beyond the ability to kind of refreeze whatsoever. And it's pretty cool that they were able to, write an article that, kind of faux describes what we are arguing about right now and trying to say, wake the fuck up. Like, it's happening. It's
and
cool.
like, to me, I like the way it was done, right? There's only... I told you when I finished playing this game, I was like, Mac, this game is just such a great vehicle for conversation. There's so many great things that I like about this game, but I promised you that even if you ended up believing the anti-David Cage people, and you say, oh, it's all derivative, whatever. Even if you didn't like the game in the end, there are just so many springboards for conversation. I love how this was done. This was an article that you can choose to bypass, or you can choose to read and then think about it and have a discussion like what we're doing now. It's allowing us to go down this rabbit hole for those of you that are watching. Like, to me, it is. I'm just following the logic here, right? Because I kind of like this ignoring of the environment in favor of, big business interests and corporations making more money. On one end, I'm like, the people that run corporations to some level are intelligent, right? And I just can't imagine why someone would want to ignore real warnings from, legitimate scientists who are saying we are headed toward this tipping point where we will have exhausted the Earth's resources and burnt it out so that it's no longer survivable. And then we're looking at like a future, like really that's like Waterworld, or like, where instead of like people like paying $200 for an expensive glass of champagne, they're paying $200 for a glass of water, and so, and I think this is going hand in hand with this gap, right? There is an increasing gap between this 1% of people that have all the wealth and everybody else. And as corporations keep measuring their base standard as how much growth they're having in their profit. So it's not just like, oh, I made 6%. We talked about this in other shows, but we made 6% growth in this sector last year, and now next year comes around. If we make another 6% growth, we are actually making more money than we did last year. But that's not enough. That's not shown as a profit. You have to go at least 7% or 8%, and we're going to get to the point where you run out of percents, and it's like, when do you get to like 100% profit, gains, and at what expense? Because money. I can't get the way money works is it all has value relatively, right? If we all get extra money, then nobody really gets richer. We all get extra money in proportion. I mean, nobody really gets richer because it has the same buying power. So some people have to get richer while some other people get poorer.
man, I lost you. You there? Can you hear me? Yeah, now I can hear you. All right. That was weird. You just dropped out. I don't know what happened. Can you hear me? Oh man, you're
Sorry,
gone
I'm having
again.
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. All right.
Okay.
So I just saw that I lost. Like I said, I'm the party owner now. So I think you dropped out and then dropped back in.
Okay.
Did we at all stop recording on the Twitch? Do you know? Or?
No, it still says we've been recording the whole time, so we're good. So,
All right, good.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
jump
Well, if
right
anything,
back
I
in
could
here.
break the two. I could fuse the
Yep.
two. But I guess what now as I've been kind of thinking what the motivations are or whatever, right? It's maybe these people are just taking the position that we human beings, like Agent Smith said in the Matrix, we're cockroaches, and we're just multiplying at too fast a rate, and we're going to exhaust the resources of this planet. And there is technology or things that could help those with vast amount of resources to survive the draining of the resources, right? Or to ensure that they get enough so that their bunkers are full or whatever, or they're stocked for the next few years, or they get the first rocket out to the new planet that was found. Whereas the masses, the 99% of people don't survive that, and this new world has started. Right, but you're not getting on that rocket. You're not getting in that bunker. You're not having those supplies unless you have that drastic amount of wealth that gives you that access to do whatever you want to do and access to that science and stuff. So
A big
that
argument about that would always be that society has always been built on the backs of the 99%, right? So if your thought process is, oh well, I'm going to be the one that gets on the rocket and like fuck the other 99% of people, it's just going to be like you're definitely going to die. Like the moment you land on that planet, when you get off that fucking rocket and realize like, oh, I don't have like anybody who can actually do anything now. All I am is like I am the fucking businessman who like came from a family.
Well, no, but you take your elite scientists, you take your elite people that you need.
Of course,
but
still,
you're in charge of who goes.
But yes, but the point is still without the regular people, the people that build the things and do the work that is required, it's like you're not surviving off of the 1 to 2%, right? Like it's not a viable survival rate, whether it's an apocalypse on Earth or elsewhere. You need the people who are willing to put in the work for the and so yeah, we're not just built by scientists, right? We're not just built by good businessmen. We're built by, they come up with ideas, and then the rest of us are basically the ones that kind of implement and pull everything through, right? By being the worker class. And so the idea of there being this like, oh well, we're all going to get to the fucking the vaults, the fallout vaults underground, the rich people, and all the other people are going to die up on the planet when the sun burns out, or we're going to make it to the fucking rockets and go off and all the other people are going to die on the Earth when the Earth spins off into the fucking sun or whatever it might be. The point is like none of that's like an actual viable plan if all you're doing is looking out for the upper echelon of people. And I'm not saying like, yes, I'm taking it to the end extreme where I'm like literally saying 1% of people are getting on these rockets or whatever. Obviously that's not the case. But the point is when everyone is just looking out for themselves like that, it's just not it's not a viable survival mentality, because we became what we are now once we became not these like this nomadic kind of only pursue your own survival. Once we started to realize community and becoming these settle down and creating a community of people to survive together. And so this idea that the rich are pushing out, or at least the idea that the rest of us think that the rich are pushing out, which is, oh well, at the end of the day, as long as I have what I need for me to be able to survive, like the rest of you are all gonna fucking you're all gonna die anyway because you just don't have the means to survive. Then it's just not that goes back to like prehistoric era of every man for himself, and it's not sustainable. And so I think
I agree with you. I think there are problems in the planning, and at some point, if the masses figure out what's going on, like again, I keep referencing this Cuba situation, right? Where when Fidel Castro first started, he kind of was a hero to a lot of people in Cuba. Like you talked to a lot of the Cubans here that came to the United States to escape his rule. They were, a lot of them had money in Cuba and were doing well. You talk to some of the people that were left behind, the poor people. They were like, we didn't have enough money to eat. We didn't have any money for shit.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And 1% of the population, or maybe a bigger percent, whatever. There was a small percentage of the population that was living fat, while everybody else was literally starving. And when you hit that point, those people just said, wait a minute, we outnumber you.
Right.
So I don't know. You
Absolutely.
can make up all of your fucking corporate contracts and all the bullshit you want. We're just going to take shit because fuck
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. Because fuck you.
And so, yeah. And, like you can wave a paper in front of my face how you were fucking slick and you stole from people and you amounted your wealth and your money made money and all that shit. But in the end, there's a bunch of us they can't eat and you're living like a fat cat. So we're going to take your shit.
And that is the nature of every single revolution that's ever taken place in on Earth, right? Is French Revolution and every major war and everything like that. It's like all of these. It's the plebes, right? The regular people that finally say enough's enough, fuck you, and there's more of us than there are of you. And when the fear of retribution is outweighed by your desire to survive, because that's what keeps everyone in check, right? I mean, why are jails in control, or like why do jails exist the way they do? Is because of course, if any fucking given moment, if the inmates decided to take over, it's fucking game over. But is the fear of retribution of what can go wrong if you are the one that tries to go like and fight the one in power and no one else does alongside you, and you get caught, you're fucked, right? But once everyone says no, it's game over. Like it's either this or we die. It's this or we starve. It's this or I can't feed my family. Then it becomes the rush the cockpit moment where you're like, fuck it, there's terrorists in the cockpit and some of us might not make it, but we're going for it, right? It's we are taking down this, we're taking down the king because yes, some of us might die, but the alternative is so much worse. And so right
we
now,
just rot slowly.
Right, and right now that's kind of like when you were talking about like AOC and some of that, like a lot of this, the political revolution that's happening or that people are anticipating is ramping up and taking place, is this idea of the younger generation. Well, I mean, a lot of it's driven by younger people, although there's obviously older people involved as well. But this kind of the younger generation and the people with less realizing like, you can't just do this anymore. Like you can't just continue to only make decisions that benefit you and your cronies and your that other the other 0.1% of the population that lives in the same world as you at the expense of everyone else. And so people are now starting to finally fight back and say enough's enough. And so some of that fear, right, can then be turned into I guess humans aren't great at separating like political and ideological revolutions from straight up actual revolutions. Like we're not like it's a real fine line between when we say, hey, this is us just like standing up for our rights and saying enough is enough and we're pissed and we're not going to take it anymore, to like, no, I'm also going to just throw this rock at your fucking head because like you're not listening to my words, so that's the only thing I can do. And so we're like teetering right there probably on that edge of like what is the end of the ideological revolution of change. Like that's why it's so important what's taking place right now in terms of a lot of the pushback against the Trump administration's ways of kind of undermining American democracy and so on and so forth.
Undoing all of the environmental precautions that have been taken in the past, and just for the sake of, and that's the other thing, man. The two-party system is so horrible because I don't think, like, if you ask most Americans, like, hey, you think we should like remove like restrictions on wasting our environment so that these rich corporations can like become more profitable? if you put it in those terms, like most Americans are like, no, fuck no. I even, but then, you lump that in where it's like, well, if you don't agree with that, then you can go to the other party and then you can support these, you can support these things that are against your religion, or you think you're against your religion. You can support, like, abortion. You can support that they want to take away your guns. You can support that, the other side is all for black people, which we know you hate. You know what I mean? So they take advantage of looping all these people. They use racism. They use xenophobia. They use like all of these other things to get you to vote for other shit that you're not even looking at as a thing that affects you.
Yeah. It's just it's rolled under this umbrella, and so they can always say, well, yeah, you probably hate this one thing that we're doing, but like when the alternative is the devil, you make Hitler seem pretty solid, right? And so that's all they constantly do is make it be like, well, yeah, you may think I'm a scumbag, but like, I mean, exactly what's happening right now in America, right? Is how are there any people that are still like openly in any degree of support for like half of the things that Donald Trump says, right? Like whether or not you're into like his, populist and whatever, we're not going to get into that. But like, how are there people that support half of the like insane shit that he says, whether it's the racist shit, the sexist shit, the fucking I'm going to be best friends with Kim Jong-un. Like, even if you're racist, you still think, like, that's crazy that he's friends with, like, he wants to be cool with Kim Jong-un or that he's cool with Putin. Like, how are people in support of that? Is because when the alternative, in your point of view, is, like, all of this devilish shit, it's like, well, but the left is going to, allow people to murder babies, and they're going to take all my kids, they're going to take all my guns, and they're going to, they're going to integrate all of these, like things that I hate or whatever. Like, you're like, well, yeah, then it's the devil I know versus the devil I don't know, and so that's where you get into this whole this whole idea where people are willing to accept things that they wouldn't normally because the alternative ropes in so many things that they think is so unconscionable that the thing that is actually terrible becomes, you're willing to, you're eroding enough of yourself that you're willing to accept little bits and pieces. It's like boiling a lobster where like, you do drop it, you slowly raise the temperature, eventually you don't realize that you're boiling to death. And that's basically what, the Republicans are doing right now is basically saying like, hey, we'll just slowly turn the temperature up so that like the things that you would have thought like 5 years ago are fucking ridiculous and disgusting and horrible now are just like par for the course because you just slowly got indoctrinated into thinking like, the alternative is so bad that this has to be okay by it being your only other option, right?
It's fucking scary, man.
It is.
It's fucking scary. Like once all the resources and all the technology and everything is in the hands of that 1%, and the environment, the resources really. I mean, because they're not going to wait till last drop of water. Now let's all figure it out and leave. It's going to be like there's going to be that point where they're like, hey, it's a critical. So all of a sudden, finding water becomes difficult, and it can only go to those who have all that money, right?
Absolutely.
Even like clean air. Or any of the shit that we take for granted now, it's just not going to be.
I think we know about like 30 years ago. It wasn't that long ago when there was the oil shortage, and there were like lines that were, like 100 cars long, and you had alternate days were like based on I think it was like your license plate, like if it was an odd or like a odd or an even number, or if it was like depending on if it ended in a vowel or a number or something like that, like you could only fill up on certain days because there just wasn't like, there wasn't access to it. So that's like just allocation across the board because we're like, fuck, we just don't have enough oil. Like it's just too costly.
Right.
We don't have access to it. Well, now we're getting closer to the point where we're just like, oh, fuck you just can't have any. Like it's not that you can only get it on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays. It's that, fuck you just don't actually have access to it. But like, if Jeff Bezos needs it, of course, he's like, yeah, what's up, dude? Like, I'm going to go fill up my fucking 15, private jets because who's going to tell me no? And so it's like all of these things that are happening are trending us down this path of consolidation of wealth into a group of people that are, only concerned with keeping that wealth. I mean, not to say that hasn't always been the case, but the fact is, as we are slowly being pitted against each other and just fighting against each other about such stupid bullshit, you have the ability for like these corporations to continuously, just keep the resources under. I mean, to part of what blows my mind is when you look at this battle of Republican versus Democrat, and we are reinforcing rules that are allowing corporations to just like you said, get rid of rules to protect the environment so that they can make more money. And you have people that make $20,000 a year that are like, yeah, fuck yeah, like fuck you to the other side. Like, of course they should be able to do that. Like, fuck you because they're the ones that are doing it. And you're like, no, how do you not realize that they're fucking
because
you?
they're sold on the biggest fake lottery. Well, it's not made necessarily a fake lottery, but it's a lottery system here in the United States where, most like the people that have wealth are just about guaranteed to maintain that wealth and have it make them more wealth and make them more wealthier over the course of the centuries, decades, and their family's going to continue to be rich. So if you are born a Trump or a Rockefeller or a Carnegie or one of the old families, like there's no chance that your family, you're going to end up on the street destitute. Because no matter, you could spend your entire life fucking around. I mean, you get hooked on heroin and do nothing but that. You know what I mean? And you have the resources to coast you out and keep you and your descendants taken care of.
Yeah,
unless you do something like insane. And even then, there's probably...
Literally, what they just would do is say, put fucking $1 million away, put $1 million away, and you will live comfortably off of the interest from your money if you put $1 million away for that kid when they are 1 year old, right? Like if the parent just does that, they could be like, you could be a fucking crackhead mess, but you will be taken care of forever just off the interest off that money, and so it's like the easiest way to ensure that like wealth always continues to beget more wealth, right? And that's where you have these things where people like what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg, who literally or Jeff Bezos, same thing, where you're like, okay, that dude has had literally Wednesday afternoons where he lost like $3 billion. On a Wednesday afternoon because Facebook stock drops a little bit or Amazon stock drops because of the change. They're not going to build the thing in New York anymore. That stock drops like 5% or 3% or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden his actual personal wealth drops by billions of dollars. And then he'll make it back on the following Monday when he announces, hey, guess what? We're coming up with a new Echo. Like, he'll be fine. You know what I mean? But the point is, like, that is more than country's entire gross domestic product on a fucking Wednesday afternoon. So, like, when you get to that degree of wealth, you literally are, like, I mean, we've talked about on our show, The Too Big to Fail. It's impossible. It is financially impossible unless you literally said, I want to set all of my equity on fire in the backyard until there's nothing left. You still probably couldn't because you wouldn't have access. You wouldn't be able to access most of your equity to be able to even do that. Like, it would be impossible for you to literally fail. Whereas, like, you or me could easily. I mean, we could have. There could be a fire on your block or my block, and we could be wiped out in an afternoon with nothing. We could have nothing left. And these dudes, that could happen 15 different times to them, and they'd be like, oh fuck, now I'm only down to like 3 billion instead of 3.7 billion, because like those numbers are so insane. And so that's where it gets.
But we're
all
sold
to
on
this
these
stuff.
stories, though. We're sold on these like stories where like those like you and I are told, hey, American dream, right? All you got to do is you put your nose down, you start your own business, and it grows, and before you know it, you're fucking Jeff Bezos, you're Mark Zuckerberg, and that's it. I mean, there's a little truth to that, in that, like, Zuckerberg, Bezos, they didn't come from, even Gates, they weren't rich, like they weren't wealthy, they weren't Carnegies, I mean, they still attended Ivy League schools, I think, if I remember correctly. They still came from upper middle class families that sent them to private schools and all that stuff. So they had more than, and they were white, and they, there are those instances, though, where like if you're like particularly gifted, in sports, and then you turn it around, like LeBron James, right? You can amass a sick amount of wealth just because of your particular talent, or like you got Jay-Z, who grew up in the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, and now is like really, really rich, but the chances of you making that transition are extremely fucking low, and
they're statistically impossible. I mean,
Yeah, so
in
like
terms
you,
of the statistics, it will never happen to you. You know?
yeah, and so like when you have a bunch of these people going, well, no, well, this is America, and if these guys want to keep making money on money on money, like, so they don't examine the fairness of that. Then it's like, why is that fair that these people, like, and their kids and everything, like, money is supposed to be some kind of system where it measures your contribution to society and then lets you receive something back, right? So like if we just thought, like, if you're born tomorrow and then somebody says to you, hey, like, I want you to work and then in return I'll give you this to survive, that it should be like that. But instead you're born into this weird system where, like, if you're not a have, you're already going to be forced to pay all of these crazy things that you're not even, are just a result of you not being born, you know, like not being born into a rich family, or, you know, so it doesn't matter how much effort you put in, you can still be getting fucked over.
Yeah, and I think, well, the biggest like fallacy to everything about the American dream is just that it just doesn't function the way we create the concept of it. The concept of it is the romantic version of it, right? Where it's like, hey, people came over from, you know, all around the world and they worked real hard and they, like, you know, built this, you know, this life for themselves, and their kids have a better life than they do, and like that, and you can do that. And it's like, okay, so yes, that is still possible, like that, although we're now living in like the first generation in how long, where there's the potential that the children will not be better off than their parents, right? Because
right,
of the,
but that's what makes
trend.
a difference.
So
That's
that
the dream, the American dream worked really great when we all just got here, and even then, it's a fallacy too, because a bunch of people got here and were awarded plantations and all that.
Well, so, no, so that was my point too, is because it's all based on the fallacy that everyone starts at zero, right? Everyone starts at zero and then makes decisions. And yes, there are going to be some people that are, you know, have a greater work ethic than others, and other people, you know, maybe are you know, a little bit more comfortable just coasting, and so they don't, you know, succeed to the same degree. And those things could filter out, and that could work, and that is possible in an ideal world. But because we don't live in that world, we live in a world where bare minimum, I mean, let's roll it all the way back to the bare minimum, is just by being white, you could grow up poor and white and you still have a better advantage than anyone who's not white and growing up in the exact same circumstances as you. And I'm not even talking about people becoming rich. I'm just talking about literally just being able to exist and live paycheck to paycheck. You have a better chance of doing that by being white than being anything non-white. And if you are born and you are a male, you are better off than being a female, even if you are white. And now is cascade on top of that, if you are a female that is anything non-white, you are already more disadvantaged. If you are, you know, if you are brought up in one of, like, you know, 55 different counties in the country that are just richer than other counties, you have better opportunities afforded you than the other, you know, what would be 97% of the counties in the country or something like that. So again, all of these things that people, you know, we want to tell ourselves that the American dream exists because it's beautiful and it's a great story, and it gives you that reason, like, to tell your kids, like, hey, work hard and, like, you can become famous. And so we try to look up at these stories. The problem is nowadays too, it's skewed so far away from hard work into, like, you know, hey, you work really hard and you can be, like, you know, an actor, or you can be like Beyonce or Jay-Z, or you can be like Mark Zuckerberg, who made, like, a dumb fucking, you know, social media thing. It's not like, you know, the older version of it, when it was like, hey, work hard and, like, you can, you know, get a good job that you can afford to take care of your family, and you're not going to be rich or anything, but, like, you will be able to provide for your family. That was, like, the American dream, like, provide for your family, so maybe they'll be better off than you. And, like, now it's so skewed towards these irrational dreams that are impossible, and so everyone is automatically starting as in such a deficit, because you're never going to achieve that. You're not going to be Mark Zuckerberg. You're not going to be Jeff Bezos. Like, it's the same thing as saying, like, you know, like, we all know, yes, somebody always wins the lottery. It is statistically impossible to win the lottery. Like, the statistics show it is impossible to win. Yes, somebody will win.
A real life Logan's Run.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
Yes. Yes.
The whole promise of like, hey, at whatever it is, you hit 30 years old, population's too high, so everybody gets in this thing and tries to touch this crystal, and if you die on the way there, then that's the normal thing. But every once in a while, you get to live past 30 because you touched the crystal.
It's like the Hunger Games, right? It's all these things where you put people in,
right?
Put people in an impossible situation, but entice them with this one very small chance of hope, and people are willing to do that shit. And then the saddest part about that is we're living in a world where we are Hunger Gaming ourselves, right? We're Logan's running ourselves because we're allowing this hope of this false, unfair hope and I'm not saying that like there needs to be this redistribution of wealth like on this wide degree, right? I'm not saying like we should go, storm into Hollywood and say, give us your money and we'll filter it out and everyone gets, $1,000 and we'll all be better off.
The issue,
right?
Hollywood is not the issue, and that's my problem. I don't have that much of an issue with somebody reaping the grand benefits of the reward of their hard work. Right?
Yeah.
If you're a major actor and you bring enough joy to people's lives where like you can really commandeer $6 million for a movie because you have that kind of star power, people will get their butts in the theater to watch you. I don't have that problem, and I don't even have a problem with Jeff Bezos making the money that a CEO makes for being the CEO of Amazon, which really has changed society to a great deal, right?
Yeah.
What I have a problem with is the money of all those people that have money, most of them that you have never even heard of, making a shit ton of money on its own, where their butt's not in a chair working. Right?
Yeah.
And then like it's their money is a gatekeeper for who else can make money, because they're the guys that can fund, they become kingmakers, so who can fund that. And then their money's making all shit tons of money, making them richer for jobs that they're not actually working. It's just their money making the money, which, again, used to be kept in check a little bit before the Reagan years by something that it's called corporate gains tax. In case anybody that's watching this isn't familiar with it, but corporate gains tax was like a solid 50% or 60% or some shit, maybe even as high as 70. I don't even remember it.
So you were incentivized to not only just pursue growth for growth's sake, because you'd take a beating on the back end with taxes, so you were more incentivized to do that intelligently.
The argument against corporate gains tax was like, a high corporate gains tax was like, well, these people are the people that fund
everything.
high risk projects.
It was trickle down economics, right? If we take the money from them, they won't be able to invest into these other big business opportunities or projects, and then therefore that won't fund other people getting jobs in those industries or in those corporations. And so, but we also know for a fact, like trickle down economics is bullshit. It does not work because they just reinvest it back into their own
risky shit. Right.
No, they just reinvest it back into their own fucking stock and their own in corporate gains, and then they just become richer, right? It's like, so my stock went up because I made more money, so now I'm going to make more money so that my stock keeps going up, and so that it just becomes what we live in right now, which clearly shows trickle down does not work at all. It's just bullshit.
So to me, it's like Ocasio-Cortez and all them. They're going after this, like, the wealthy that make over, this amount of money on income, we would be taxing them, up to 70%. Like, go after the corporate gains taxes. That has a much bigger impact to me, because you can hide a lot of your income through your corporation. You can claim a lot of shit to offset it and everything. So I don't know. I think our focus is on the wrong thing right now. I'd rather go after people's money, making money, because that's what's widening the gap more than anything, in my opinion.
Yep. No, I definitely agree. And now we're living through a time where, I was just going to say also, because now that you're living through a time where like the Trump administration is rolling back even more restrictions on corporations, which is just allowing them to, have unfettered, rampant growth. Just for doing the same thing they've always been doing, but now we're just saying, but now we're removing your requirement to have any degree of of corporate community sense, right? Like that, hey, I can make money. And again, don't take this as saying like, companies shouldn't be allowed to make money or people shouldn't be allowed to make money. This is what we're saying is more that like there needs to
Moreover,
be
by the way,
some.
that message gets like fucking distorted, right? Because what you just said, oftentimes that's where you get small business owners voting for these like Trump administration changes and stuff
Yes.
like that. Like,
Yeah.
look, their rules are not benefiting you, the guy that's
Absolutely not. No, they're
if you're
hurting
lucky,
you.
you make
Right, they're hurting you more so than they are me because me, I'm never going to get to that point where I'm competing in that reign, right? So I only hate it on a conceptual, like, ideological level, because I think it's shitty when you just allow companies to just say, fuck you, I just want to reinvest. I don't care if I burn the world down, as long as I become like one of the 5 fucking megalith corporations that run the company or the country. That's all I care about. Like, that's never going to impact me. I just think it sucks. You, as the small businessman, are literally being held back by that, because it is putting you in a position where you will never be able to compete. You'll never be able to grow. You'll never be able to get out of your small, like, business mode. And in most ways, you'll probably get sucked up or swallowed or stomped by these large corporations that don't have any regulations on them, so they can say, hey, well, why do we fucking need you? Like, we don't need this. We can, what's one of your biggest resources you need? We'll fucking buy all that shit up, even if we don't need it. We'll just buy it up because we are protected, and you're now fucked. We'll run up the fucking, we'll make sure interest rates go up, so you can't afford to pay your payroll because you're literally, living from one payroll to one payroll, pay. So those small businesses that are getting fucking destroyed, but they're like, oh, well, they're voting for this kind of shit because they think, well, one day when I'm there, I want to benefit from this shit too. It's like, you're never going to get there.
Right.
You're never going to get there. So it's like,
strung along.
Yeah, exactly. They're using your own hopes and dreams against you.
Is not going to be on par with Amazon.com.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
Right. So you're voting for a thing that ideologically seems like it could be cool for you if you ever made it there. That's like me voting for lower tax rates for billionaires, because I'm like, but when I become a billionaire, I want to be the one that benefits from that. I'm like, guess what, dummy? You're never going to. Like, that's
especially if you make more laws. Like, if you vote for more laws or vote for people that are going to vote it or are going to make more laws to benefit the people that are already rich, because what their aim is not to make more millionaires. Their aim is to keep all the money.
Right, is to make sure they maintain control of the money, so they don't have to worry about ever being in a situation where you benefit from it. They want to make sure that the money stays with them. So it is just fucking insane. Yeah, whatever. We could talk about that all day.
Talk about some red ice epidemic.
Yeah, let's hear a little bit about that one.
The other article that you discovered, the red ice epidemic. It says basically the article is the latest narcotic crisis to ravage Detroit, and the synthetic stimulant, informally known as red ice, has become the drug of choice for Detroit's growing underclass. Analysts have pointed to Detroit's status as the epicenter of android production, suggesting the drug flourishes in the dissatisfaction caused by androids taking human jobs. Sociologist Dr. Julian Carter has drawn the same link with androids. As CyberLife's androids spread across the country, they will bring red ice with them. Poor men and women desperate to make ends meet are vulnerable to become users or even dealers. Not only is the popularity of this drug spreading rapidly, but its chemical composition is uniquely dangerous. Thirium, the main ingredient in android blue blood, this is important to the storyline actually. Yep. Thirium, the main ingredient in android blue blood, is among the active agents in red ice and has a highly destabilizing effect on hormone production. The National Association for Narcotic Prevention, NANP, says the problem is going to get worse. The purity of ingredients is very low and deteriorating. America's biggest narcotics industry is only likely to grow. Red ice dealers are reported to have an unofficial motto: where the blood is blue, the ice is red, and the money is green. Wow. That's that. So important. That article is important to the storyline, and also obviously can have a direct link to this, what Trump would call immigrant crisis.
Well, of course, yeah. Yep, they're taking all your jobs, and
so it leads to depression. You've got to know, yes, and you revert to this. And so this is the argument that you let these, these undocumented workers come in from Mexico into California and Texas, and they're taking these American jobs, and now the surrounding people, the communities, are going to worsen because people are more depressed, and when they can't find jobs, what they start doing is spending their money that I don't know how they're coming up with that money anymore, or they're resorting to illegal stuff, jobs to get their money, and then getting into drugs and then crime and all that stuff. So
well, it's another way to keep them under control, right? Is because now they are reliant upon the government to support them or not support them and keep them in control via whether it's through drug use. I mean, this is all stuff that has been done many times in America already, right? Is the idea of, well, we don't care so much about drug use in the poorer populations because it keeps them in check, right? That's the thought. That's always been the thought. Is it keeps them, as long as it doesn't get into the rich populations. That's why everyone started freaking out when prescription medication started being abused by upper class white kids, because we were like, oh no, what's happening here? That's not supposed to happen.
It's
supposed to be
the opioid epidemic versus the war on drugs and crack, which the war on drugs and the war against crack, curiously was included the users, right? They would go after the users hardcore, whereas this opioid epidemic, the users are the victims.
Yeah, they're the victims. Right. All right. Yeah, so that's so it's another way to to show this idea of, well, it's an epidemic, but we can use it to our advantage by controlling the masses.
By the way, so this is something I was kind of saving this for our regular podcast, but I don't know, that stuff. I love doing these. It allows us to just kind of ramble on, and whoever wants to watch can keep watching. But this is a great test ground for a lot of our conversations. But I will say something that struck me recently, and I don't know how much I've said this aloud, but it's just a thought that's just been bothering me. Let's say I started a bakery, and I was like, man, these fucking I make these cookies that they're delicious. They're so delicious. You'll get hooked on them as soon as you eat them. I'm gonna call these my opioid cookies. And I started publicizing them, like, yo, come try these opioid cookies, right? Do you think that would receive positive press? Real answer. Just think about it. Like, I'm not trying to skew your answer. I know maybe the way I posed it was skewed, but do you think if I advertise my opioid cookies, not because they actually contain opioids, but because they're so good, you won't be able to, stop yourself from getting hooked on them because they're like opioids in terms of addictiveness? How do you think that would be received by the general public?
I think nowadays, I mean, it just specifically because of the, of the nature of that word has been so, directly tied to the opioid crisis and what's happening.
Would I be seen as insensitive?
Yeah, I think now definitely. I mean, maybe 7 years ago, if you said, "Hey, I'm calling it that," I think.
No, obviously, 7 years ago, I think we'd be safer. But I mean, now with the opioid crisis, do you think that I would receive positive press on that, or you think?
I think it would be definitely negative press.
All right, so even in this new environment today, there was a news story about some like bakery and they're active. You can, I'll Google it now. It's like there's like a bakery in New York somewhere where it's like crack cookies or shit like that. But people constantly refer, crack cookies. You could go on like Bosch
people
TV
say all the time, "Oh my God, I eat this shit like crack."
Yeah. But I mean, there's still companies like openly advertising, these are my crack cookies, or like there's a place I just went to in Jersey City the other day. Really good food. I think it's owned by a white dude, but it's a lot of black employees. But they still got like one of them is like it's like called like crackeroni and cheese or something like that, right? The crack and cheese, that's what it's called, right?
Okay.
And I'm just like, I get it. Like, I get the reference or whatever. You just felt like, I mean, I get the fact that you're like, whoa, this is an easy marketing tool because, mac and cheese, crack and cheese, it fits perfectly. So on a creative standpoint, right, the guy that, the owner maybe when he decided like this mac and cheese is so good, thought, I'm being clever, and this just kind of played into my hand.
Is that the only reason for that name? There's not literally another reason where they're like, oh, it's like cracked pepper in it or something?
No.
It's literally just because it's so good you'll eat it like crack. Okay.
Mac and cheese with lobster in it, and then it's called crack and cheese.
Because it's so good that you won't be able to stop eating it. All right, yeah, that's fucked up.
I mean, they didn't explicitly say it's not, because you won't be able to. But
Right. It's
I mean, my point is
implied.
like,
right. Yeah.
there is a continuing, and I don't think that the guy is probably on purpose. You know, I mean, I'm not a guy that's gonna make excuses for people doing racist shit, but I don't think it's necessarily because that's so just accepted. They're like, oh, shit's like right. Sometimes I catch myself making that same joke, right? Just because it's like we used to say it ever since back in the day. That shit's like crack, you know. That shit's addictive. So yeah,
Right.
so look, I'm looking at their menu right now. All right, I'll tell you the name of the place. The food is really fucking good there, although it's expensive. It's called Hooked JC Seafood Shack. All right,
Okay.
it's called Hook JC. So Hook Jersey City. You could actually go to hookjc.com, and in the menu it says, and the food was really good. They have a lot of dishes that are influenced by African American food. I think the owner's white again, but most employees are black there. But the menu item is called crack and cheese. It said you'll get addicted to this pair of blackened crab cake. That's what it is.
And it's called
our
Hooked
creamy mac and cheese.
also, by the way. So they're already going after
No,
that.
well, I mean the hooked is
Oh,
because
it's
of the
fish.
It's
Okay,
mainly-
gotcha.
Yeah. But so and by the way, again, amazing restaurant. Like they have this continuing thing where every 10 hours they get a fresh catch in. So if you look at their menu, I don't know if you've got it up on the screen,
I am
but like
looking
you
at
can
it right
see
now. Yes.
fresh catch 1, fresh catch 2, fresh catch 3, right? Like literally you have 3 choices on fish, and it's whatever is brought in fresh from a dock. Like every 10 hours it changes. Like literally I forgot what I got, swordfish there, and it was really fucking good. And then the table that got there right after us ordered swordfish, and the guy goes, sorry, he got the last one. And he was
That's
like,
cool.
we replaced that one with this new catch that came in. He was like, what he said was, I think we order 10 pounds of whatever fish it is, and as soon as that one runs out, then so he goes, they order in small batches, so the catch is always fresh, and they just keep switching the fish up as it comes in. So again, you know, on one end it's great. Yeah, on one end this place is great. Again, very, very expensive, but you can bring your own beer. You know, so that will, you know, then you don't have to order the $4 fucking lemonade that they have. It's pretty good, but you can't even get refills on it. They do have like the water that they make. They call it fancy water. It's turning into a commercial for the place, but I just want to tell you about it.
Really is.
It's like fancy water. It's got like oranges in it and like other shit that they put in it, but that's free. That comes with your meal. But if you go with like your own liquor and shit like that, then the meal is a lot less expensive. But it was just but anyway, really good. But this crack and cheese thing bothered me a little bit. And it bothers me whenever I kind of see it in public, especially because I'm a guy that I have worked closely with the opioid addiction issue in a lot of respects. So I have a lot of sympathy for people that are addicts, not just of opioids, but people that just are addicts, because I know a lot of them, especially also their military backgrounds, have turned to drugs and alcohol as a way to, you know, to cope. And but then I also, so I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, well, fuck these opioid people because nobody gave a shit about crack. Now, my thing is like, it's good. We're doing right by these people now. This is good. However, you know, I really wish that we would have had this kind of sensitivity back in the day.
Yeah.
And like you said, the government doesn't give a fuck because the majority of those people addicted to crack were people of color. So, you know, but again, it's still acceptable to do shit like this. Crack and cheese. I'm like, crack cookies, crack brownies. Oh, this shit's like crack, right? But if we were subbing it with opioids, right, imagine how horrible the press that would get. You know?
Absolutely. No, you're right. Yeah, it is. It just shows that it's endemic, right? It's like it's just built into our brains in a different way, or at least from society. I mean, not like us as people. Society handles these situations completely differently, and their reaction to one does not match the other. And like you said, I mean, you'd be crucified if you came up and said, you know, opioid and cheese, right? Like if you made that, people would be like, well, obviously. Yeah, like obviously you need to go out of business immediately, but you do this with crack, and I mean if people want to make the argument, they're like, oh well, that's like from 30 years ago or whatever, so we're like, whereas this is happening now, it's
not.
Look,
people still do fucking crack.
Right. First of all,
crack.
people still do crack. Number one. Number two. Even if that's the case, even if there's let's say there is 5% of the people that abuse opioids is the number of people that do crack. Let's just say I don't even know what the numbers are. I'm saying even if that was the case, the point is we still did that shit 30 years ago when it was an epidemic of epic proportions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we were really fucking hardcore sensitive about the crack and cocaine, abuse at the time, and now with time we're able to be like, hey, I'm like, we can be cool now because time has passed. We were shitty then and we're shitty now. Whereas like with the opioid side of things, it's like we look at it completely differently now because because it's mostly, it hits a population of people that people are not fucking cool with being fucking addicted, and so they're like, oh no, now it's not their fault, it's the fucking, the corporations that are, the pharmaceutical companies that sold it to them and blah blah blah, whereas they are beyond reproach. But back in the day we were straight up like, no, you're just as bad. If you're doing crack, you're a fucking terrible person, and the dealers are terrible, and everyone's horrible. And also, by the way, we made this witty name of our macaroni and cheese by making fun of the fucking, drug that is destroying your life or whatever.
I'm gonna make a fucking roofie wine. That shit'll put you to sleep.
Yeah. Well, so here's one thing I did just think as we were going through this, and it actually
Cosby style Chardonnay.
Right. It changed
what?
it changes this argument a little bit for me. Is that the most similar argument I can make is if you want to roll it back, and again, this is less on the racial side of things. It's more on the overall kind of socioeconomic group of people that we are willing to protect. Is like meth affects a fuckload of white people. Like it is like tons of white people.
But meth is not an opioid. Meth is not an opioid.
No.
Meth is not an opioid.
No. Yeah. And so meth is a thing that it's also societally, it's like okay to make fun of, because you see people with like bad teeth and you're like, oh, a guy looks like a meth head or something like that, right? Same way you'd be like, look at this crackhead, right? Like it is it? But no one ever says like, oh, look at this like opioid, head or whatever. Like no one does that. We don't mock that because we're just like, in our heads we're like, oh, it's just like a high school kid that like.
Also, remember though. So just to clarify this a little bit, right?
Yes.
The opioid is the blanket statement for like morphine, heroin.
Right.
They're like downers,
painkillers. Yeah, any type of painkiller.
Right, like anything that's bringing you down. So if you were to say a heroin user, Xanax, maybe not Xanax or pills, or like pill popper or some shit like that, there's some disdain for them as people, but they're I'm just putting in the context that necessarily you're saying meth is a specific type of drugs, where opioids is what's been marketed
as
the
catch-all, right? It's the catch-all,
threat,
right? It's the catch-all because when you're typically saying, when you say opioid epidemic, you are not usually referring to heroin use, right? Or like methadone or anything like that. You're usually referring to people that get prescription painkillers and abuse them and are dying.
No. So
right?
I would clarify that a little bit. No, you are in effect the opioid epidemic in effect, right? So you may not. This hasn't been clear. Like this is just a term. Opioid has become the thing that people are sensitive to because that's the term, right?
Right.
But in reality, the opioid problem is exactly that. It's somebody that starts with something like Vicodin and then moves to stronger shit.
Oh no, absolutely, no. That I guess okay. You're right. I didn't get to
end
finish.
up with.
Right, I didn't get to I didn't accurately explain what I was saying. What I'm saying is that most people, when they're referring to the opioid epidemic, are not talking specifically about a quote unquote junkie that just went out one day and got addicted to heroin. Like what they are typically talking about is the people that started on an opioid, a prescription medication, something like that, who then graduated, right? They moved up and now are addicted to like a more hardcore, like a heroin or something like that, right? So the reason why in our heads we are willing to like condone one and to like persecute, like the groups, because we look at one and say, oh, one, it wasn't like their fault, like they took they hurt their back playing
a
football for
doctor that,
college.
you know,
the doctor gave them the medication, and the doctor wasn't really that strict about the use. And then the kid went back and got another prescription, or it was a hardworking dad who was like trying to go back to work, and then the doctor was like, yeah, here, I'll just give you like 50 of them, when he probably only should have given 5. And so then it was the doctor's fault. And then the guy, you know, tried to get more medication and he couldn't. So then he ended up graduating to the. So it's not his fault. Whereas like when you look at like even when we were growing up, our perception of like heroin users was never like, oh, a person that used like a pain medication and then graduated to it through like no fault of their own. It was always like, I just imagine somebody in like a drug house who just like straight up, they just one day decided to be a fucking heroin user, and they were like they were druggies, right? It was like the people that you thought of as a hardcore like aggressive like drug user. And so it's funny how we can change the perception based on the story that we tell ourselves that these people are, like the story of how they got to where they are. When we know some of the circumstances around it, we're a little bit more willing to give them a pass and to treat them as a victim, versus when we just dumb it down to the most bare, basic fucking like reductive story we possibly can, where it's just like, you just fucking, you know, you're one of the guys from Breaking Bad who just like goes into your fucking bedroom and fucking buys like a bag of fucking meth and just like fucking smokes that till your teeth fall out and whatever.
You're tinfoil.
Yeah, then you're fucking gross, and I don't have to feel bad for you because you're a terrible person. Right, again, I'm obviously just projecting the story, but I'm saying like, you're gross, and we don't have to feel bad for you because you're just a fucking druggie. And so it's like that, and so no one on the like crack side was ever, from the crack, you know, like from the crack epidemic, no one was ever painted with this story of how they got there. It was always just like, oh, you're just a crack dealer, or you're a crack user, or you're like one of those people like, you know, the fucking was it New Jack City fucking Pookie, like, you know, just like you're just like you're just one of those people who are just a mess, so I don't have to feel bad for you because it's you just made poor life choices and now it's fucking coming home to roost. And so it's like, it shows how easily we can just like turn off our empathy for one another just by turning people into a cartoon character version of what they really are, and just saying, oh, I don't need to know anything else. Yeah, the less I know, the easier it is for me to think that you suck, and I don't have to feel bad for you because it's your own fucking, exactly. And that's what all of this whole thing is about, right? Is how can we dehumanize the other and treat them as this thing that is worthy of my disdain instead of my empathy.
And to continue down the rabbit hole just a little bit, if you'll allow me,
Yes,
I think it's, I don't know about you, but like when we were in college, like even then, there was enough of that war on drugs mentality left over where, like, to us, the rampantness of drugs to me in college wasn't there, like beyond weed. You know, like back then, the argument was like, you know, oh, weed is too prevalent in college because, you know, that's the gateway drug into the worst shit. You know what I mean? But like, I don't remember, like, and now everybody in college uses Adderall apparently. You know what I mean? Like, or all of these fucking prescription pills. That's the thing. That's what they normally use. The biggest thing people were worried about back in our day was like weed.
Yeah.
You know,
I
like
specifically,
weird, like,
I aggressively remember the first and really only time for me in college where I went to a party where it was like an open, like it was an open known thing. And I'm saying that more to say, I'm sure I was at other parties where people were doing harder drugs than weed. It just was like, they were just doing their own thing, whether in a back room or fucking outside or whatever. Like, but it wasn't like this was the party, right? The party wasn't about doing hard drugs. It was mostly either drinking or weed. I remember one time going to a party where the party was about people doing coke, and it bugged me out. Like, it bugged me the fuck out. And it first,
I didn't see that until I got to Miami.
And the funny thing about that was, it could not have been more of a white house party. Like, it was the most upper class white. Like, I remember we went to it was like somebody's humongous fucking like mansion in like North Jersey somewhere or whatever, and fucking it was like, it couldn't have been more like guys wearing their like sweaters tied around their fucking, you know, like shoulders and shit like that of all time.
Let's go on the yacht.
Yeah, exactly. It was all guys like Trevor and fucking, you know, like shit like that. And I was just like, I remember walking in and I was like, oh, we're getting the fuck out of here immediately because number one, I hate all these people probably, right? Like they just all seem like people I don't want to hang out with. Number one, and number two, like I don't need to be at a party where people are doing coke. Like that's just not like a fucking cool thing. And that was one time. And like, but throughout all of that time of thinking like, oh, weed is this gateway that's going to make us all turn into these fucking savage, you know, like uncontrollable monsters that can't stop doing drugs. It's like that's not how it was at all when we were, you know, in our age. It was like, you know, it was more of it was the underbelly, right? That happened very infrequently. It did not bubble up to the surface in any way that, you know, we were engaging in or seeing happen on a regular basis. The way it was painted back at the time, you know, that it was
right.
Do weed
But
once,
now
and
these
you're just
like
going to tumble
prescription
down into a
drugs are
hole.
like rampant now.
Yeah.
That is the new fucking like that's where you make your money now, like easily too, more easily because cops aren't watching colleges like that. You know, like these and pills are like easier to get around, I guess. You know, I think than something like even marijuana, or cocaine. You know, I don't know.
Absolutely, and I mean, think about I from the point of view of selling, the risk of selling, you know, not weed as much now, just because it's becoming more and more, you know, accepted, legalized, and it's not even like they don't, you know, cops aren't actively even going after like, you know, weed as
some
a,
of them.
you know, well, I mean, you're right, some still are, but on the whole, compared to how it was like when we were younger, where, you know,
That's true.
you got in trouble, it was like it was a big deal if you were even just smoking a joint, whereas now they won't even stop you if they think, you know, in a lot of areas cops won't even like fucking approach because it's just not worth it. They're like, this is the paperwork we'll fill out, nothing will happen to this person, it's not even worth it, right? So that's one thing, and part of that's because of the medical marijuana legalization, and obviously just straight up legal usage in many areas around the country, that it's like not worth to know, well, did you get it there and bring it here, and who cares, right? But from the point of view of selling actual, you know, like misuse of pills, you know, like prescription pills, that's like all of the money for a kid to just get a prescription for like having his tooth pulled, right? And then be like, cool, now I'm just going to sell these. I'm going to sell them for $5 a pop or whatever. You know what I mean? I got 30 of them or 60 of them. I can sell them. Kids will crush them and snort them or whatever they're going to do, however they're going to abuse them. And there's literally, I mean, not that there's no downside to it, but you have a much better case when you have your pill, that your bottle of pills that you are legally prescribed, that you are, you know, that you're using. Yes, if you're caught like actually accepting money to hand it to somebody, well then you're an idiot. But like other than that, like at least just carrying is not illegal because you're like, I have a prescription for this. Like I have an actual prescription for it. So it's like the misuse there is so much easier for kids to get access to it. And honestly, most kids probably know their parents probably have it somewhere in their house. You know, if like most people I know, if you go and have like a surgery or you have a tooth pulled or anything like that, more often than not, people end up not having to use all their medication, you know, like that. And so what do most people do? Well, I'm going to hold on to it, right? Because God forbid something happens where I need it. Sometimes you never really know.
Where I need some kind of pain. Yeah.
Right, like you never really know. And like, I got you got to think of Vicodin because you're like, there's 3 of them left, and who knows? Like one day if I fucking, I'm getting older, I fall down the stairs and fucking ankle, boom, pop one of these, get to the hospital. Like, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, parents have like fucking 4 random containers of drugs that are, fucking anywhere between a year and 10 years old that they just never got rid of because you're like, who knows, right? And so the kids know where to get that. It's the same thing as alcohol, right? Kids know where to find that shit, and it's way easier than trying to find your parents' fucking, weed or coke or shit like that parents are probably not just leaving around if they are doing any of those drugs. So it's like the access to it is so much greater than it ever was when we were younger, where it was literally like you had to commit to being like, yo, we're driving downtown to meet, Willie on the corner, and he's going to be our hookup that's going to sell us whatever shit we need to get, It's like, it's
motherfuckers now have more of an understanding just with the internet age and information age. They just have more understanding of like what are the active ingredients in drugs that you could get from somewhere else. So like, I joked before at the start of this episode about like you like getting into lean now, to make up for the alcohol level. Like lean is this, or as it was called, like syrup and all, whatever you call it in your sector of the country or whatever. But that's just basically codeine-based cough syrup
Yeah.
You throw it in some fucking soda, and then there's like another thing that they add to it sometimes. Oh, like the Jolly Ranchers. You dip Jolly Ranchers in there until they melt
Yeah.
in, or like it just affects the,
Sounds
whatever.
delicious.
But well, that's the point. It's like all
Right.
fucking,
Right.
it tastes like a big sugar fucking candy, like, and so
Yeah.
like kids fucking get hooked on this shit. But like that, I think part
like
of it
the
was like,
jewels,
them
right?
realizing like, fuck, I don't have to like go to a street corner. Something like I can make this shit from cough syrup. So then they eventually had to make like fucking laws to put that special kind of cough syrup behind the counter and track it, like, and shit like that. But
Well, that's like
contributing
meth,
too.
right? I mean, that's why like you can't just go
Right.
buy that type of medication. You can't just go grab a bunch off the shelf. You have to go and show your ID, and it gets tracked because they want to make sure that you're going around and buying up an entire store's worth of amphetamines so you could make your own meth.
Right.
It's like, well, yeah, that's just the thing we figured out, but for everything we figure out that's being misused, there's going to be five
They'll
other
find
things
ways.
that somebody figures
There's
out.
going to be ways that somebody's going to figure out how to alter the cook or alter the chemical composition to some other shit to
Right.
make what you've now So
Well, our thing,
funny,
remember
but-
going back to our age, right, was like there was people that like sniffed glue because it got you fucking high and you
Or
could get
aerosol
an
cans.
unlimited supply of that. Yeah, or whippets, right? People would do the whippets.
Yep.
And it was like a thing people did because you're like, give people a reason to find a way to get fucked up. They're just going to do it. Like, it's just, that's what we know is especially kids. Kids will find a reason. So it's like almost, it's almost an impossibility to try to lock that stuff down completely. And now we're just way off course from where we started about the abuse and epidemic, but it's just funny.
We go down
to
rabbit
think-
holes in this show.
It's the fucking
If it
show
wasn't
of
Ready
rabbit
Player
holes.
2, it'd be called The Rabbit Hole.
Yeah, right.
So you want to climb back out a little
let's
bit?
Go see. Let's just let's climb back out and try to find Rupert. Let's see if we can find Rupert.
right.
You want to go? You want to move on this one?
Yeah.
All right. So from here on out, the one thing I do find funny, I just wanted to mention, is when I'm looking on here is the red ice epidemic is 33% of people, and then past the tipping point is 26% of people. And the funny thing to me is you are now 15 chapters into this game, and you don't realize by now that every time you pick up a magazine, there's 2 articles. Who are the people that are reading one and not the other? Like, that happened to me on the first time, and I was so pissed at myself that I was like, well, now I'm never doing that again. Like, who's the guy who's like, I don't really give a fuck about the other article. The first one's enough for me. Like, it's amazing. I love that.
It's funny.
This is the most interesting thing to me about, like, going through these stats are trying to figure out
finding
the
people's
stories
trend.
of, like, the ideas that people, like, how they play this game and what they follow through
What
on
makes
or
these
whatever.
idiots tick?
Yeah. Right, exactly. I like it. All right, let's see. So find Rupert.
98% of these savages.
98%.
So there was, so 2% of these savages did not find him.
So that must be that one that we talked about down here, which is where you don't find him at all. Right?
Maybe.
That's probably because that looks like you probably you find the LED, you find the diary, and maybe if you had just walked back out, like maybe you just don't find
that's
him.
enough for me.
Yeah, it looks like I have found everything I need to know in here. You're like, all right, whatever.
Let's go, Hank.
98% of people found Rupert, and then all 100% of those people obviously chased him. So I guess there's no way for you to just say, I'm going to let him run away. So only 10% of people lost sight of Rupert. So what
you
happened
and I
to
are
you
both
there?
in that same.
Okay, so you
same
lost him
thing.
also.
I lost him too.
Which was
Yeah, it
interesting
sucked.
because the way
I was
that
really
one-
hoping you'd catch him because I felt like I was like fuck, I missed out on something, but
Yeah,
now
and
we'll
it's
never
funny
know.
because the way that played out, after it happened, I actually thought, I was like, oh shit, I can't tell if that was supposed to happen or not. Like, did they do, did they do one of those things? Because like I went up and I thought I saw him and I was running towards him and then I realized it was just like a worker. And so then I was like, oh,
that's
maybe
what
they,
happened to me too.
right. I was like, maybe they did one of those things where it's like, he just
Telltale.
does actually vanish, right? He vanished and you're not supposed to be able to find him. And so the story's supposed to be that, that Connor's supposed to come to grips with the fact that, like, fuck, I'm not programmed to fail. Like, how did that just happen? But it's interesting to see that 90% of people did one of those other 2 things, which is, I would love to see what the other 2 options are, because it's obviously maybe you lose sight of him, maybe it's you don't lose sight of him, but then you lose him anyway, and then maybe he gets away, and then maybe the other one is you catch him. But I don't know. It's weird that you have 3 options there. I'd like to know what those 3 are. because
so
the other two shoot
Rupert got
into
away though,
something
ended
else.
up being at 74%. So maybe the other two are like you catch him, but he fucks you up and then
Right.
takes off anyway.
Right.
So
So maybe there's
26% of people he did not get away on.
So the upper option leads to, so it looks like he can either maybe you catch him and then he fucks you up and gets away, and then the upper option leads to another final ending. So maybe there's one where you catch him, one where you lose sight of him, and one where you like catch up to him and he says some shit to you and you let him go, or who the fuck knows, whatever. But obviously the upper option could have led to a third option, or filters back into Rupert got away, which is why our 10% turns into 74%, because obviously it's like, a bunch of people got that top option, which then broke down into either a third ending or the Rupert getting away anyway. So
do you remember who Rupert is, by the way? I'm not familiar with that name off the top of my head.
No, I don't know how. I don't remember hearing the name. Unless, oh no, wait.
Maybe he's one of these guys in Jericho or something. I don't know.
No, I do think. Wait, maybe they may have mentioned it when they said, when we got the call, they said the neighbor said, like, oh, the neighbor said her neighbor Rupert, or there was a lot of noise coming from her neighbor's apartment. So maybe she said her neighbor Rupert or something like that, and that's the only way we know.
Oh no, when he looked at the license too.
Oh yes, no, that's it. Yes,
license?
you're right. Yes. So it was Rupert. Yeah, it was Rupert, Travis Rupert or something like that. I think it was TR.
Okay,
Travis
so the Rupert is a fake name or whatever. So
Yeah,
we don't even know who that.
We don't know who
was.
his name is. That's the name they're calling him instead of saying.
Well,
yeah.
that's why I was hoping you would catch him, because I didn't, and now I'll never know
Right.
who it was.
So again,
maybe I will.
another episode where we were pretty close in line with one another. What was the only thing that you did differently that got you the 61%?
I found the. Let's see. I warned Hank about his friends.
Yes, you warned Hank about his friends. Yep, in the very beginning. Yep. All right. So everything else, surprisingly, we are playing. We're playing pretty similarly. I mean, we had a couple of different things like that big fight, chase scene or whatever.
Yeah, the highway scene. Show us up. I'm glad you got it different.
Yeah,
because I actually ended up watching that on YouTube again, just showing that to my wife and my sister-in-law, because I was like, that's just fucking pretty badass.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome. That's why I was pretty excited about this one, because it was another one of those chase sequences that were pretty cool, and I do love the. We mentioned it while we were playing it, but I love where you get to kind of see all your options and then determine which way you want to go. So like, hey, do I want to risk, do I want to risk the faster route, knowing that I could fuck it up more, more chance to fuck it up, or go the slower route, which reminded me in a lot of ways of Until Dawn, that there's some chase sequences where it's like, oh, do you want to go the slower route, or do you want to go the faster route, but you might fall, and they do this. They do it pretty well in this game, where you do have to actually, kind of look at the options and say, okay, what looks like the best. I mean, that one you saw, I went way more aggressive on everything, pretty much across the board. I think every single one I went with the fastest route, because I was like, yo, Connor wants to catch this motherfucker. And
at the end, it ended up burning you.
It did. I fucked up twice, back to back. I fucked up two separate ones because I was killing it for a while, and then I got real. I got real, a little too cocky about it, and I ended up burning the last two before the two of the last three, and then the final one I got right, and then ended up losing him anyway. But I wonder if some of those mistakes ended up making him get farther away, so that it was easier for me to lose sight of him. I wonder if I'd gotten those right. Do you keep up with him? Keep up close to him so he can't get away or whatever. It was pretty cool. But yeah, no, that was awesome. That was a cool episode overall. I mean, the ones that
the next ones, man, they keep getting better, dude. Yeah. Like the next two I'm already looking at are like two pretty fucking cool ones.
Nice. Well, I am in a mood to possibly getting one of these done tomorrow if you're around. I know.
Hit me up.
We have a snow day here already, so I'll be working from home.
It is a distinct possibility.
Yeah, so we can knock one out. It would be fun. Awesome, dude. This is a good one, man.
Right, man.
If you're willing to do another one where I just drink some of my my patented plain ass water, man, we can get this going.
So let me ask you, if you're gonna do the Soda Stream, why did you decide to go with a plain flavor? Like, to me, if I ever have, what is it about bubbles? I just don't get this. If you give me the opportunity to drink flat water versus bubbled water with no like added taste. I will take the flat water every time. The bubbled water gives me like that. It's almost like a tease on soda, but then there's no flavoring to it. Why'd you choose the plain ass water taste?
Part of it was just because I just didn't. Have time. Like by the time we were ready to make one, like to do this, I just didn't have time to like actually like mix it and have it ready. Like I was just like that was a. I mean that was just from a laziness standpoint. That's why I did it. But I actually also do. I also do enjoy like seltzer or sparkling water anyway. So
really?
Yeah, I
know like alcoholics order that shit at a bar, and I'm always like, why don't you just like on days when I used to show up at a bar sometimes and not feel like drinking, I would order water and put lemon in it, and like it comes with a straw, and it looks like I'm drinking alcohol, but it's like plain ass water. But I didn't like the bubbles thing. Never appealed to me.
Yeah, I mean I know it's like a thing that if people don't like, if you don't like sparkling water in general, like I wouldn't go to a restaurant. You go to a restaurant and they're like, would you like sparkling or tap? I'm like, always just give me water, because I'm gonna just like I just want to have that as the alternative to I'm thirsty, so I'm gonna chug this,
Right.
So I'm okay with just regular. But whereas like for my own, when I'm making it for myself and it's just something I'm just gonna be like sipping on, I actually don't dislike, like we will a lot of times just have like seltzer water in the house that I'll use, to just to drink, because to me it's like I enjoy the taste of it. Like I do like the taste of sparkling water, when just having the carbonation in it tastes, just tastes good to me. So
and why you trying to act like you know the difference between sparkling and still?
Yeah, exactly. I love the places where they have like more than two options. You're like, now you're just getting too fancy. Like, come on. When you like you made up a third version of water that doesn't really exist, sir. I don't believe you, and I'm not down with it.
Dasani sparkling water, or would you like?
Right, I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Sparkling water.
Exactly. I'll just fucking bring my own water. But anyway, so yeah, that's it. So maybe next time I'll do the regular. Maybe next time I'll do the what's it called? The I'll make an actual soda stream with a flavor. Like I'll make like a
shit.
I have mango upstairs, so we'll see if maybe I can have some mango.
And you do your best to remind me to tell you, if you do the mango, remind me to tell you the story about mango.
Okay.
All right, why me and my wife always laugh about mango in the house. If I've never told this already, I don't know if I've told this on the podcast.
I do not believe you have, so I will enjoy
joke.
You making fun of mangoes while I'm drinking my mango water, and then you will also at least be able to say,
it has nothing to do with the Saturday Night Live
show.
character.
Right. CraigMakk Soda, the show, will be SodaStream mango ass water.
Mango ass. Yo,
okay
mango ass water. As long as I put the hyphen in the right place, it sounds good.
Yeah, mango ass dash water. I'm okay with that. Ugh, ass water. Gross.
That's the wrong way.
Good. All right, dude. On that note, this has been a good one, as always. I thought this was going to be a short one because we got through the gameplay by like 40 minutes, and then we talked for another hour and 30 minutes.
Dude,
as we always do.
We took the straight rabbit hole down on the on the articles. Those were very thought provoking. I really like that they're just like Easter eggs that you look at and choose to fucking think through, talk about, or you can just fucking say, you know what, just want to play the game. But if you know us, we always take the fucking rabbit holes. And if you want to figure out how to ever turn something that's legitimately like 10 minutes of gameplay into 2 hours plus of conversation, come see how we do things.
Exactly. Come check out anything man cave related. Hey, by the way, a little peek behind the curtain for everybody. Spoiler alert. This is actually just another version of our podcast that we did.
Yeah, pretty much. Bonus shot.
It's just a bonus podcast where we play 10 minutes of video games and then podcast for 2 hours on top of it. So it is just how we get our fix when we're. It's like crack, is what I'm saying. On that note,
but never opioids.
No, that's insensitive, Jess. That's really insensitive. All right. On that note,
by the way, I'm typing in the chat real quick.
Yes.
If you're like, man, this is an awesome conversation, I wish I could listen to it without having to like go through Twitch, which nowadays is pretty easy, right? I put Twitch on my phone sometimes and listen to it through my phone while I'm driving or whatever, even if I'm not watching the screen. But you can check out our podcast. We have a regular podcast where all we do is talk shit and there's no real video involved. And it's called Live from the Man Cave. I'm going to type exactly how it's spelled into the chat. And you can find it on any podcast app or directly at our website. And our website is
livemancave.com.
www.livemancave.com, right?
Yes, sir.
And
We
that's
got
in
a
our
bunch of
chat
shit
now
happening
too.
over there. We have our regular
yes, we do.
podcast. We have our Live from the MCU, which is our first foray into playing a tabletop role-playing game with Jim Sardonic, who I mentioned before, our Minister of Gaming. So we have we're kind of coming at multimedia right now. We're approaching
Craig
a bunch of
gets
different.
We have Craig where Craig gets drunk off a SodaStream mango ass water,
Yes.
and then murders a prostitute.
Yep, that's a whole new podcast. Yeah, you will love that one. That one is great. Let's not let's hope that one may end kind of like Serial, where you're like, oh well, it ended and he's arrested. That sucks, but it was fun while it lasted. And there was some cool hip hop beat for the theme song, but now CraigMakk's in jail. But yeah, that's fine. It's we're taking chances, is what we're saying. We take chances.
Hey, I gotta say, by the way, Founders Solid Gold really held up through. I enjoyed this as a session with beer. Yeah, nice. I mean, I feel probably just about as drunk as you with your SodaStream,
right?
But
right.
You know,
that's cool though. There's nothing wrong with that every once in a while, right? It's okay to get like, you know, I do like the idea of being able to enjoy. So a thing that people also need to know for both of us, we have talked quite a bit extensively about high alcohol content beers at many times on the show. But there's also a thing about enjoying beer as a thing, like the drink itself, and not just as the goal of getting fucked up all the time. So when you can find these good tasting low ABV beers where you're like, oh, I actually enjoy the taste of it, and then I don't fucking black out from drinking it, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. That's a good thing if you enjoy the taste. Now, yes, if you're just a person that's like, hey, beer is just a vehicle to get me fucked up, the number one, that you may have a problem, but that's okay. I'm not here to judge at all. But the point is, like, if that's all you're doing, yes, do what you need to do to get to the point that you need to get to, or whatever. But I'm saying is, we actually also, specifically as evidenced by our show, by the fact that we spend half an hour dissecting the taste and smell and everything of the beer, we enjoy the actual taste and smell and the enjoyment of the drinking. So when you can find one that is, you know, that low fours and have a good time drinking it and it tastes good, that's awesome. So this one is one that I will definitely be picking up now that you have given the sessionable endorsement of that one. I'm down with that.
Solid gold, but you won't be picking it up until the 1st of March,
God
unfortunately.
damn it, Jess! Why'd you have to remind me of that? All right, man.
All right, man. I'll let you tomorrow.
You got it. We will talk tomorrow, and you guys will be able to hear another one of these coming up very soon, and we'll see what happens next as we continue to become human as we approach Detroit. Thank you very much, dude. Have a good one, man. I'll talk to you later.
Sir.
Peace.
See ya.
Awesome.